the thing about it is we think that financial literacy is an adult conversation.
Oh God, no.
And we shortchange children by not giving them the chance to, they could learn it. They could understand, especially now when it's new world.
Listen, you hit the nail on the head. We treat financial education like it's separate and apart.
Right.
We need to stop isolating it,
Right.
stop decompartmentalizing it, and treat it like every other subject matter that we teach in children. Manners, we teaching them. Character, we teaching them. English, reading, math, and put financial literacy at the top. And I always say, okay, and I'm known for it, acquiring a financial education is as vital to our success as learning to read.
Exactly.
Because in education, we prioritize reading, which it's correct. It is the scale of skills, right? But in today's world, there's no way. There's man on the road who can't read that need money.
Yeah.
The homeless man on the road, he asks you, give me a book, I need to learn to read.
Yeah.
I need money to eat.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Fact.
It is as vital as learning to read.
Just need a big bag, I'ma get it so fast, I'm so fast. And when I get that money, I'ma make that last. Caribbean currency, we make that money last. We make it last. I just need a big bag, I'ma get it fast, get it fast, get it fast. I just need a big bag. I just need a big bag.
Welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Currency Podcast, where financial literacy meets Caribbean culture. I'm your co-host, Kyle, and I'm here with my co-host,
Redman. And today we have a special guest, former commissioner, affectionately known as Commissioner Racquel Berry-Benjamin. She's an entrepreneur, a financial literacy
advocate.
Now that she here, right, I feel like I'm supposed to be like in school. I want to say everything correct. I ain't want to articulate properly. You know what I mean?
You got right
But,
lines.
We just have her here today so we could have a conversation about financial literacy, of course, and school and education and the system that we have in place and what we could do better and just get her in-depth insight in that field. Welcome.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And it's
sure.
great to be in your honor here.
For sure.
You
Pleasure
good at
to have
this?
you.
I have a little experience.
Okay.
Pleasure having you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. We're
Likewise.
excited.
So I'm putting together this event called the Wealth Building Gala.
Right.
It's going to be in St. Thomas, United States, Virgin Islands, March 16th. I'm bringing on professionals from Atlanta to talk about off-island real estate investing. I'm bringing professionals in St. Thomas to talk about financial planning, life insurance,
Right.
on-island real estate investing, and you name it. Guys, if you have a business, even if you don't have a business, if you have a good job, we need to start to secure our money and secure our future. So therefore, the struggles that we're going through right now as adults in the Virgin Islands, how hard it is to live there, our kids don't have to go through that struggle. And this is so important for the community because the things that we're going to be teaching and talking about at that event weren't taught to us when we were younger. It wasn't taught to our parents. But guess what? The folks that's on the island, that's benefiting from our island, they knew. So at this point, here's an opportunity for you guys to get educated, to learn more about money, structure, all of that good stuff, investing and all of that stuff. So therefore, we could leave something. We could have a legacy that we leave behind for our kids. So we could break these generational courses and we could be successful even after we gone. Right. So March 16th, I need you guys from my community to be in the building. Yacht Haven Grand 360 Harbor. See ya there.
So we're going to start from the beginning. We know you're from St. Thomas.
Yes.
Right.
Born and raised.
And in the Tutu area. Would that be Ras Valley or Tonki or
Ras Valley.
Ras Valley?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, big up all the Ras Valley people.
Ras Valley.
Yeah,
I remember when.
Valley to do high rise.
All right.
Yeah, I remember when you were first announced as a commissioner, and all my shout out Danny, rest in peace, Kamal. All of them we had this little DM group chat and they were like, yeah, you know what I mean? So they were excited that somebody from out of where they come from, their community, represents them. Because Ras Valley could get a bad rap. Just like Pearson Garden out. Yeah, all the communities will have a bad, right? We got a bad rap. So to see somebody shine out of that, they were proud and excited about it. So tell me about like how that, and well, you did say Cookie Point. So Fogie them?
That's my cousin.
That's your cousin? Family. Okay, so I grew up on Cookie Point too. Well, all of us kind of grew up on Cookie Point. Our beach. And so I remember when you mentioned that, I was like, I wonder if she Foggy because I almost drunk on a beach.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a tough one,
No,
you gotta swim.
Fresh bossy knee on a beach. The current take me wrong the bend on a beach. And like a white lady see me and you're like, and everybody just rush the beach. So when you said
I heard about both of them stories, and I don't go past my knee in that beach.
Yeah,
man. No, man, that water too deep.
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful.
I enjoy
paradise,
from the sun.
right?
I love it. I enjoy from the sun.
So take us from Cookie Point to Ras Valley.
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, gentlemen, for having me.
For sure. Definitely.
It's truly a pleasure to be here, and
Pleasure
I'm
having you.
more excited because we're here getting to the heart of our people,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And that's what it's about. We have to be the ones to invest in our own, and I'm happy to be here, a part of you guys doing that.
Appreciate you having coming.
Ah,
All right. So I'm Racquel Berry-Benjamin, and I hail from Cocky Point.
So it's cocky?
It's cock. If you're from there, it's Cocky Point.
We gonna say cookie.
The average is cookie.
I understand why they changed
But
it from that.
Yeah, we don't want to say
no
cocky.
cocky point.
It's Cocky Point.
That sounds like a vibes card.
Yeah. That one there a little too.
But family and
Class.
friends know it's
Right.
It's from the gut. It's Cocky Point,
Right.
and that's where my roots are from.
Mhm.
My ancestors, we've cultivated that land and lived off that beach for many, many years.
Really?
My father is a fisherman. My grandfather was a fisherman. My entire family are fishermen,
Okay.
Right.
and women.
Right.
We all grew up fishing,
Right.
and that's my roots. It's actually something that gives me great pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When I want a peace of mind,
Mm-hmm.
we head out on the boat
Yeah.
and we do some
Fish.
fishing, right?
Love it.
So that's where my early beginnings came from. That's where I got my first bus tool. I got hit bus knee.
Yeah.
But I got my first bus to them down.
Hey man, you got your first bus chest out there too?
That's right.
No, I never got a bus chest. Let's get this correct. Don't spread no propaganda. Okay?
You don't do the busing? Pause.
No, I don't. VI man do not cheat. That's false propaganda again. Okay? So let's carry on with the cocky point.
Yeah, but Cookie Point, that's where I get my first
Right.
falls and digs, and but of course, most importantly, where my character started to form, where my values, family values, and so forth were instilled as a child. With urban development, as you know, we've families started to migrate to the various public housing communities.
Right.
And my family, with the close proximity, we ended up in Ras Valley. So what we had were both my grandmothers ended up in the same building.
Wow.
My mother's mother was
That
on
must
it.
have been so cool.
Listen, talk about family unit,
Man.
right? So my mother's mother was on the top floor, the fourth floor, and my father's mother was on the second floor.
Right.
My godfather was the neighbor.
Yeah.
It's one community in this
Right.
one building.
In this one building.
Yeah, so that's where my early years were formed. As you know, to do school, Joseph Gomez School is right there. So I would walk through the short court and go to school. And, I've had several living, I guess, experiences in various buildings because once you grow up in public housing,
Right.
you don't control where you live.
Yeah.
Right.
You go where you're told to live.
Right.
So for one reason or another, so we've lived in various buildings in Ras Valley, at least 3 I could think of right now. Throughout my early years, we moved to Bavoni, so I lived in Bavoni, developed some really great friendships over there to this day.
Right.
That was my partying years.
Jamban?
Well, And then, so I've had family in Tonki and Dunu, and
Right.
it's a small community.
Right.
But my early upbringing was formed in Cocky Point and the Ras Valley area.
It's so dope that you said that as far as like your family's living in the same building, because That's my cousin. And his grandmother had lived in one building down the side, and my grandmother had lived up the side. So we always used to be in each other's house. You know what I mean? And his grandmother would call, hey, send Kyle with some sugar.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And he coming up the road with sugar.
And the child going,
Yeah.
Or even meet him halfway.
Halfway, yeah.
Meet Kyle by building
Yeah,
7.
yeah, exactly.
You know?
And then guess what? We there, and then we get sugar, and then we see each other all day, so we playing, and then he bring the sugar
Sugar
late, and then
Exactly.
we get our ass boss. So when you were so long with my sugar, you know. So that just connected me back to the kind of upbringings that we had early in that family unit. You know what I mean? And it's found a lot in the Virgin Islands, in those urban communities, in those housing communities, you know. So I just wanted to just point that out as far as the value of early childhood. Because they don't have it, man. Listen, my son, they don't go outside. They don't go outside.
Isn't it such a thing?
It's crazy.
Listen, today, right? And I mean, we're partly to blame, clearly, right?
Definitely.
Because we have, as parents and as individuals, we do have a part to play in that. We have to create opportunities by design.
Yes.
Because the world will create them for you.
Yes.
And that's exactly what's happening with our children, right? So from that perspective, we do have a part to play. But then again, on an individual level, and then us as individuals living in the world, we have an opportunity to shape our world. But when we don't contribute to it, then it's designed for those who are contributing to it. And then our children are the result of the environment, right?
Definitely.
So like everything else, we definitely have to be the ones to create the moments. And it's like you raising your children in your own homes. We have to instill the values that we want, regardless of where we live. Because we know growing up in project communities, you have the good, bad, and the ugly. And we've seen it all. But really, it boils down to what you want your children to live in this world with, what you want them to live and be and breathe and display as they go out into the world.
So let me ask you this, because and Kyle touched on it. Do you think that your path would have been different if you didn't have the full family unit, like both grandmothers, both aunts, uncles, cousins, just all there in the community?
Absolutely. And here's why. Support is the absolute most important essence, factor, ingredient in anybody's success. And when you have that family unit to be there, I'll use my personal life, now that we're talking about the family. I was able to go to school, get a college degree because of my family unit. I had 2 children by that time.
Right.
And when I leave work, I was teaching. I was going for my bachelor's, but I was working in a school.
Right. And
at that time, I would leave work, drop the kids to grandma, head down to the University of the Virgin Islands, and they're home. I eat some food before I go down because grandma don't cook. I go to school, children home, and they eat. Homework done, or when I come home, if it's beyond grandma, I have to help them with the homework, right? Yeah. So that's a perfect example of how valuable the family unit is and the support that's necessary for anybody to be successful.
And I asked that because in the Virgin Islands, now that, we've expanded through social media and just different means, because our world was smaller because I didn't have a cell phone till I went 12th grade. Social media came up a few years later. Do you feel like now, so many people rush to be independent, leave away from their parents, move away from the village, leave off of St. Thomas. Do you feel like us quickly trying to leave and separate who we are as family affects how the Virgin Islands look, operates, how the children are policed, parented because of that quick judgment to say, I go in this way?
I think it does play a role. It's not the only factor, but to your point and perspective, definitely it plays a role because whoever is in the community is going to shape it.
Right.
So if you're not there and you're not adding value and you're not reflecting on your upbringing, and that's not to say folks should not leave.
Right.
I was born and raised in the Virgin Islands. I spent my entire education career there. clearly traveled for work during that time.
Right.
So I was exposed to other educational systems. But when I was finished with my tenure as commissioner, I branched off. And while I still reside in the Virgin Islands, if I didn't branch off and expand myself in business nationally, then I would have only been able to contribute to the Virgin Islands from a local perspective and even a local mindset. Right? So it's not to say you should not branch off and go and spread your wings. As a matter of fact, some of us really need that. Right? But at the same time, you have to understand you not contributing to your home leaves it open for who's there to do it.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And that kind of touch home for me too, because I'm heavy in financial literacy as yourself, right? And gentrification is a problem that we have in the islands. And with that happening, we're not included in the gentrification process because, to me, lack of family. Like when I say that, what I mean is like, there's a property for sale in Red Hook. The property costs $500,000. Mommy don't work, daddy don't work, sister don't work, brother don't work. Everybody working. But instead of us putting our money together to go in as a family unit and purchase this house, son gonna rent an apartment so he and his girl can live there. Daughter gonna rent an apartment someplace else so she and her man can live there. Mommy and daddy gonna rent their own. If we combine all those incomes and we you know what kind of purchase power we would have as a community, and our community will look a whole lot different. We would have a lot more ownership in our community. Right now, the landlords is who making out really, really good in our communities because we don't own much. And a lot of us aren't the landlords. So what you just said as far as the whole family part of things, I feel like us as families, we too quick to do our own thing. I don't want to live with them people. When you look at the Arabs and the Asians and all these people, they're going to buy one big house and everybody going to live in it. So it's like, why we ain't doing that? Like, only us, like, we ain't get a cheat code. Everybody else, as far as the minorities.
I love the way you
everybody
said it.
else get a cheat code. The cheat code is everybody come together, pool our money in as a family. We buy one big house, and then we continue working, and we do it again, and we duplicate it, and we duplicate it. And it's like, we's the only ones that, as far as the minorities go, that ain't understanding this.
So bear with me for a minute, because I'm going to get to the root of your heart of your question. From a perspective, a historical perspective, right? Slavery has been around. Many cultures have been enslaved, right? But we can agree that Black people have had the most brutal form of enslavement, chattel slavery. So we, as a people, it's understandable why we today think the way we think, speak the way we think, speak, and behave the way we behave. It's not an excuse, but it's a level of understanding how we can do those things, right? So the question is, why we as a people can't just, because we have been damaged for so long.
They've been separating us.
For so long, right? That it takes individuals like you and I to actually be the voices, the encouragers, the supporters, to make sure that they get it and they understand that was our past. It's a new opportunity today, right? Because they're not, you could only see what you could see. You know, you can't see beyond your mind. I can't see beyond my mind. They can't see beyond their minds. It's for us to expose and elevate their mind, right? That's number one. But to your point, there are families, communities are built from families. You can't have a strong community if we don't have strong families.
Facts.
Period. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our people want to go out on their own and do their own things from emotional hurt.
That's a good point.
I'm angry with my uncle. My sister and me can't get along. We in this house so long. But what does it stem from? Surviving, poverty, poverty conditions. Everybody in this one. It's not from a pleasant place. You see what I'm saying? If it was from a pleasant space, everybody wants to come and meet at grandma's house and gather but there's so much emotional baggage, financial struggle that creates our poverty mind, our poverty tongue, and our poverty environment. So it's like, I just tired of this. I'm tired of it. Let me just do my own thing, right? And it's actually something that's blocking it's giving us short-sightedness that we can't see the longer vision. And the longer vision is, if we stick together, we get the wealth.
Right.
But I think too, and I'll wrap up with this, we teach wealth from a monetary perspective.
Yeah.
And I guess we could come into that later with my next
Right.
work,
Yeah.
my next work. I have a
Right.
book and everything else we could touch into that speaks to that.
Yeah.
But we teach wealth from a monetary perspective. The most money you have, the most assets you have, your net worth as a whole, versus understanding that wealth is your intellectual property.
Yeah.
Human beings create chairs. We
Yeah.
cut the trees and create.
Right.
We were creative and we create these fine assets here, right? That they're valuable, that turn into money.
Yeah.
But when we don't teach that wealth is human beings, we think these things fall out of the sky, not realizing it's human created.
Yeah.
Right.
And when we teach family as wealth, we value the human being and we value our differences. But when you have so much hurt and every day is struggle of money, how am I going to pay my bills? That's our history.
Right.
You could understand why people are the way they are, but it's not an excuse. And it's definitely not an excuse for you and I who know better.
Exactly.
Right.
It's our job.
And I want to ask this question because we had this conversation on the phone yesterday. And correct me if I misspeak.
Okay.
In high school, 9th grade, you made a decision.
Oh, yeah,
I
to
don't
leave.
want to do school anymore. I want you to touch on why, but I also want to ask, do you think that decision for you at the time at such a young age was easy for you to come to because you had such a strong family unit and they trusted who you were at the time and what you believed and your convictions? Like, how? Because I can't imagine telling Letitia, hey, I done with schooling. Like, I done with that. I gone from wrong end. I go get blows.
I love your question.
I go get blows. So I want to know, did you get blows? And then you went?
With what action?
Yeah. I can't. When you said that, I was like, I don't want to quit school too, but I just don't know how I would tell Letitia Penrajos.
Yes, right?
I do that.
Yeah.
So touch on, that was
Yeah, I
a real
will,
nugget
I
for
will.
me.
I will. And I really love your question because it's a reality.
Mhm.
It's a reality. So in the 9th grade, again, so growing up, finances was always a problem.
Right.
You think money does grow on trees? Where am I get the money from? Right? That's what you grew up hearing. And as much as parents don't get it, children know when you're struggling.
Yeah.
I've seen my family struggle for money. And don't get me wrong, we get our lump sum of money, whether it be from the government rebate check, so whether it be from some lump sum or what somebody do, the money gonna come.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we weren't knowledgeable enough to save and grow that money,
Yeah.
right? So it was always a cycle of struggling for money.
Right.
And children see that. And I saw that
Right.
with my mom. Every time she got to go down by Como Loco for a loan. That's a reality for many parents.
Yeah.
So,
You gotta be dating yourself. You como loco.
yeah, well,
I know, but and I am saying
Yes.
you don't look.
You know.
Yeah, but you don't look like you should know como
Como
loco.
Loco.
I know- I
So
grew up
that's
with
a testament
Como
to how pretty you look and how
Thank you.
Yeah, but
I grew up with
every
Como Loco.
every time you say something that just take me way back, and I just be like, but you don't.
She go mention
you sure
Vital
you like,
Como.
That's right. That's what we
I
grew up
don't-
on.
I didn't want to interrupt,
Yes.
but I just the Como Loco was a trigger
Thank
for
you
me
for the
because
compliment.
I don't think a lot of people know Como
I'm
Loco.
still young and
Right.
I appreciate my
You're
history
welcome.
as well. Thank you.
Yeah. You are saying whenever your parents are
Yeah,
going to
so
look for the loan.
children see that, and that's something I saw. But the thing is, as much as, and I'm speaking from a parent perspective, so I could get back
Right.
into the child. We don't think that our children see and hear everything, but they do.
Yes.
And that's something that affected me. I personally, I was always ambitious, always very head on and what I wanted, what I was going to do. I didn't have a problem in school, passing, getting A's and B's was never a problem. Comprehending and understanding things, I didn't have that issue. My issue was growing up in poverty, not having enough, always wanting more, aspiring for more. But this issue of poverty is all around, whether it's mentally, financially, environmentally, it was our reality.
Yeah.
So I had reached to my wits' end my 9th grade year because I'm sitting there, we're struggling for money. My mom is trying to pretend like she's not struggling for money because you don't want your children. You're not going to pass that burden to your children, but they know.
Yeah.
And I was like, this, I've had enough. I know I was not going to make it through 4 years of traditional high school.
Right.
So it's not that I didn't want to go to school.
Right.
I had a different route that I was eyeing.
Right.
And my mother went to Job Corps. And she used to tell me all her stories and so forth of Job Corps. And I would gravitate to them, right? That's a whole nother topic, by the way, that we could get into, but I'm gonna stick on task. And I told her, my route is Job Corps. I want to go to Job Corps and immediately move on with my life.
Right.
So I thought at the time I could just go Job Corps and take the test and, pass, not realizing that you have to stay in the program for a certain amount of time.
Right.
So the program could capture the data to prove whether it's successful or not, and then move on. So it's not until years later I got into education, I realized, because I've been doing the same thing now. We have these educational programs for children, and we want you in the program to prove its success or not.
Yeah.
So, but at the time, I just thought I could, get my GED and move on. And so, anyways, I had a hurdle to get by once I decided. But I did. I told my mom. She was not very excited about it because she didn't want the same path that she took for her child, as every parent wants better for their children.
Yeah.
But eventually, life turns out the way it should. It was the absolute best decision that I made. Now my parents and my family appreciate my journey. But at the time when you're going through the motions, you just can't see the future.
Right.
Right.
How did mom react?
Oh, mom was devastated at the time.
Right.
I mean, she shed her tears. As parents, we cry in our rooms by ourselves for our children. She shed her tears. She expressed her frustration with me. She tried everything. Yeah. But there was God would have had to come and tell me himself, Racquel, you staying in traditional. Yeah.
And that says a lot about you because you were in 9th grade.
9th grade.
I was like 14, 15 years old. And at that point in time, this ain't working. I got to do something different.
Yeah. I had my route. So what I did was I signed up for Job Corps at the time in St. Thomas when they had the office down Savan. And at that time, you had to be 16. I was 15. So I had to wait another year. And in that year, I got pregnant with my first child, my daughter.
Right.
Mommy wasn't happy. So at that point in time, I think
she just screwed up.
Yeah,
mommy yo, once you drop out, no, you come home and
exactly.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
So it's like it's compounded.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Right. And the thing is, so I waited out, and what happened was the cycle, and I'm intentionally, I'm gonna speak to my camera, my audience. I'm intentionally saying this because we have a lot of this same pattern and cycle of behavior in our communities, very prevalent in Black communities. Not that it doesn't happen elsewhere, but in our community, we have this same cycle of my life, of what I'm sharing with you here. And, there's some people who try to pretend they didn't come from, who are elitist today, who try to pretend they didn't come from a teenage mom, or they weren't a teenage parent themselves, even dads, right? But it's life. We don't know what our challenges would be and what our experience would be. Yeah. But I say this because when you are faced with a situation at the time, you don't know where that outcome is going to lead. Yeah. Because I didn't know where mine was going to lead. Yeah. Right? But I just knew that high school, just traditional 4-year, was not it for me. Yeah. And I say this responsibly because children today could watch this video and think, oh, I'm going to take Racquel. I'm inspired by, I'm going to take Racquel route. Yeah. If that is your path, there are several alternative education that you could traverse to get there. Like I took the GED route. Yeah. I took the Job Corps route. Yeah. And that's why I'm a strong advocate for alternative solutions. Education for me is not a one-way path.
Yes.
And as a traditional educator with the traditional public education system trained and operated, I see every day where we defend institutions that are not providing us the results we want, all in the name of this is public education.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's good for our people because we can't afford paid education, right? So free and public education is the best thing God create, man create under God's son.
Yeah.
But we don't appreciate it. And then the organization, within the organization, you have educators like myself who are to be leading these institutions and working within them to better them. But we have our own struggles within it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not one to defend mediocrity or things that are not the best, giving us the best results.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go around. I was never the one to go around, free public education or this high school and that high school. And because if it is producing fruit, you're going to hear Racquel mouth.
Yeah.
If it's not producing fruit, you're going to still hear my mouth, but not from where you want to hear.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can't continue with what's not helping our people.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's free public, this free public need help.
Exactly.
It needs reform so we can provide better.
Definitely.
Okay?
Definitely.
And I don't see that in isolation.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot that goes into that. Because we like to point a finger at the education system and not look at how we help or hurt it.
Yes.
So I don't say that irresponsibly.
Well, I also think, and I want to touch on something because your stories are inspiration, but to what you just said, I also think that all the departments supposed to work together in essence so that all the weight don't fall on the police department, all the weight don't fall on the health department, all the weight don't fall on the education department. Like, it's supposed to work in a sense of unison, right, with each other. But I want to tell you that when you made your decision to go Job Corps and how you felt about school, I didn't think you didn't feel any way about school. It was more a financial thing, right? You could see the struggle and you wanted to gain a place to contribute as quickly as possible. For me, it wasn't financial. It was more, my mother been an educator for most of my life. And
big up to mom.
But I feel like it was a curse in a sense because at home, I read so many books, have so many conversations with your mom, you're privy to so much information that by the time I get to school, it wasn't engaging enough for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I
totally get it.
It didn't challenge me. Like it came easy. Like I never struggled with school. So I would be bored. I would be
totally get it.
Well,
yeah. So you're the exception because you have that additional support.
So I'll say that to say, I wish that your story was around for me. So then maybe I could have a conversation with my mother and say, look, I love education, but I don't like how it's not.
You love learning, but
it's not engaging for me.
Right.
Because I did went to Job Corps, but I went to Job Corps after I get kicked out of high school. So instead of getting kicked out of high school and having that blemish, because no matter how much I say, it just feel like a failure to me. Like my cousin them walked on, they graduated. You know what I'm saying? I get my GED, cool, and we all meet here in the end. But I wish I had knew that there was somebody as courageous as you, so I could then. She probably wouldn't buy it, but at least I would have been able to say like, hey, I need to. There has to be something else for me because this
there has to be a way.
Is not capturing me.
Right.
Home is. My mother had Encyclopedia Britannica. Like she was really strong on education, and not to the point where you were afraid of it.
See, you in a house with Britannica, what's shopping and talking?
Right. You know what I mean? So exactly. Right? She and not to say that we wasn't struggling, but she just had prioritized education. On my father's side, my grandfather was a principal, his sisters were teachers, so and my mother was just, Kai could tell you how big my mother was on education before she became a teacher and a principal in the BVI. I wish your story was around then. And you said it before, not to give children an excuse to quit school, but the alternative path. So before we even go marching up into your career, can we just kind of sidestep and talk about those alternative paths for children in the USVI today? Because clearly and I say this on live all the time, when you go to high school, it in shambles. The classrooms look like the 1980s. There's nothing that says, I want to go to school. And I don't want to compare the Virgin Islands to Miami, right? It's unfair. Don't have the same amount of money, don't have the same amount of resources. But when I was going to school in Miami, you couldn't get me to stay home. I want to go to school.
Yes.
School have a bunch of stuff.
But what do you think that was, though?
I just think the environment, the resources they had, like the clubs that were in, I could have moved around. Like when I first tried to join the chess club, it was only because they were going up Pampano. You know what I mean? And I was like, I could travel, I could expose. And then, like I said in our live before, like I didn't do PE in 12th grade in St. Thomas because they didn't have any showers, and they didn't have any amenities. But when I was doing PE in 9th grade in Miami, I could go take a shower
and head to class.
So I just think that for me, when I came back, see, when I was young, when we were in 8th grade and elementary, we didn't care about how the school looked. All right, so we meet up with Kyle. We're gonna do what we do. You know what I mean? And we're gonna have fun regardless. Walking home from school was more fun than anything. You know what I mean? So
that was the line.
That was the line. Like, school done, we meet up, take this 5-mile walk that we thought was 30 minutes, but really like 5 minutes. You know, it was a lot.
Facts.
So I don't know. Can you express the different?
Yes. So a portion of your experience had to be to the power of environment. And I got to get back to that.
Right.
Okay? Just remember Branford Brenner. And that is research that speaks about our environment and how it plays an impact on our psyche, on our thinking, and our development. Okay? Actually, that research and that work led to the start of the Head Start program. I went to Head Start. Y'all went Head Start. Everybody, free public education, right? So that's that. But the core of that research speaks to the power of our environment and how it shapes us, right? So to answer your question, everybody's journey is different. And that was my path, right? How it has influenced my life and my life's work is that I know within my hearts of hearts that there needs to be a voice for alternative routes. Because if not, then we assume, or we go by the assumption that we're all the same. And we think the same, and we act the same, and we come from the same households, when that is not the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
You see? And if we don't provide avenues for people who have a life circumstance and just can't take this traditional path, then we are failing our children. So I'll share with you one story. One of my education colleagues and I, when I was serving as deputy superintendent at the time, and we call this the Genesis rule is what we call this among ourselves. And that is because there was this one young lady named Genesis, and she was in the 12th grade and she would have had to, whatever her son, I don't remember the story in detail, but whatever it was, she would have had to do 12th grade a whole nother year for one class. And the way the system was designed, meaning by the policies that existed at the time, she only had that option. But policies are in place for a specific reason, okay? They're there to protect the institution, protect you, us as individuals. They have reason and purpose, but they were created by man, and we're humans, and we have to know when to make an exception to the rule. So a lot of times we don't get that. Why people get frustrated and act out of frustration and not feeling that there's hope or another way, you know? So what we did was we made an exception to the rule and eventually changed the policy because that's why we're there. We have the power to change policy, right? To allow her to enroll in night school for that one class so she could graduate with her class. That's what we need to be doing in education, right?
I see you.
Not just protecting public education when it's not working for us. So that's just an example of what I meant. Right. So alternative paths to make sure individuals succeed.
Mm-hmm.
We have the night school, we have Job Corps, we have day school, we have career and technical education. There are many pathways. Today,
In the Virgin Islands.
oh yeah. Well,
Right.
in the Virgin Islands, we have career and tech. That's in
Right.
every both high
Right.
school, all 4 high schools.
Right.
St. Croix has our career and tech center,
Right.
an actual building that was built,
Right.
a program that the seniors from both high schools and St. Croix can attend,
Right.
to include adults as well.
Right.
But every high school in the Virgin Islands has career and tech,
Right.
right? Now the courses may differ.
Right.
Night school, day school, this is there. The
Right.
options are there,
Okay.
right? Now, in today's world, however, the Virgin Islands is not isolated. As you mentioned,
Right.
we live in a global world because of technology,
Right.
because of social media.
Yeah.
So really, there's no excuse for any parent or any child when it comes to doing what is right for that child.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? I took my children one time. I was deputy superintendent at the time, and I took my children to, my children are athletes and always in athletic programs, and they went to public school. And I took them one time to Montessori.
Right.
So we did a 1-day walkthrough, right? And what I love about Montessori was the openness, of course,
Yeah.
but the curriculum.
Right.
Oh God, the travel component.
Mm.
Because what I know as an educator is exposure.
Right.
Hats off to you for taking your kids to South Africa.
Yeah, we
South
just talk
Africa?
about
Right.
South Africa.
Hats off.
For sure.
And because exposure is what makes the difference.
Right.
When you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
But once you know something,
Yeah.
you ain't trying to go back.
Exactly.
And I really wanted them to be a part of that travel every year, among other things.
Yeah.
But what I know to be true is, had I taken my children from the public system, they would not have gotten the amount of athletic opportunities.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that was their thing.
Yeah.
So I made a decision. They're going to stay here.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? So you have to do what's right for your
For your
children.
child.
And don't think I get heat for it.
Right.
Oh, you's big public educator and want to send your children to private school. But that's a mentality that for those who only see this tunnel vision.
Yeah.
When in actuality, so it's like a teacher, I compare that
Right.
to a teacher teaching subjects versus teaching students.
Yeah.
You're defending a name
Yeah.
of an institution,
Yeah.
but versus what's best for these children.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
So
I myself, right? I was considered an average student in high school. I hate math. Oh gosh, I hate math so bad. And it used to blow my mind because this man never used to go class, but he helping me with my homework. And I like, how that don't make sense. You check? But I didn't understand how his challenges were back then. I was just like, yo, I go in class every day. And I don't understand. He said, you don't go class and you got it, right? So long story short, I had to go summer school every year up until my 12th grade year, where I passed math with like a 70.1. My math teacher had known my uncle really, really good. And I credit him for giving me that boost because I know I failed. But nonetheless, right? So I speak to a lot of kids when I go home and stuff, and I talk to them. And I was talking to this one kid at the JAG program in CHS. And he said,
I love that program.
yeah, it's a real good program. And I was
I'll
talking
share
to
with
him.
you some stories about it.
Good. And I asked him, I said, so what you want to be when you finish school? He was like, I don't know, I don't know. I ain't the smartest kid. I said, what you said that? Because I don't get good grades. I said, my boy, I never get good grades in school too, And like, I in front of you here talking to you. So like, to touch on what it is you said about like the system, what do we have for those kids that probably struggle with this part of the institutionalized school system as opposed to learning as a whole? Because I saw something on social media that also said, see, students struggle because they didn't fit in with this type of learning. But in their adulthood, the C students are the
thrive.
ones that
They thrive.
they thrive in. Entrepreneurs and the C students are hiring the A and B students because they function so well in a systemized environment. Where the C students and the D students is like, I ain't feeling this, I want to do this. They're more of free thinkers, right? So it's like, what can we implement to catch them C students before they start to feel like, you know what, I ain't good enough. and then they go down a bad road, as opposed to like encouraging them and to be like, yo, it just ain't working. Like, you just ain't understanding this part of it, but like you say, catering something specific to them. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for first off, the specific programs right now within our education system, I will not speak on because I'm not serving in that capacity,
Got you.
right?
I
So I
got
won't
you.
speak on behalf of the department.
Of course.
Right.
But generally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
as a Virgin Islander and someone who has very much pride and interest in the development and flourishing and prosperity of our home, definitely programs makes the difference
Gotcha.
when it comes to children. As you mentioned, you had that program when you were in Miami, right?
Right.
And you gravitated to that.
Mm-hmm.
So the same is true. We need programs so our children could be a part of, feel a part of a community, be with like minds. That's why they're interested in that program anyway,
Yeah.
right? So they could feel a sense of belonging. So regardless of what it is, it starts with what that child is interested in. And that would be the first step in the direction that they need to go.
Yeah.
Now, if the program doesn't exist, whatever it may be, that's where the parent comes in, because you now have to say, okay, this education system, wherever I live, okay, Virgin Islands, this doesn't exist, but my child has an interest in it.
Yes.
I have to kick in high gear then.
So
You
we
see?
can't leave it up to the educators
Oh,
and stuff to
God.
dictate
It doesn't
what
exist.
our children need.
Right.
We
Oh,
have to
absolutely
see
not.
where they fall a little short and become active as parents in there. Because in the Virgin Islands, we have a thing where I send you school to learn.
listen,
and I
you
go and go walk. You figure that out and then come home and I
I'm
go
going to give
feed
it to
you.
you how I got it as a child.
Tell me.
Go to school and learn your lesson.
Facts.
Okay.
Facts. Yeah.
Not learn.
Learn.
Go to school and learn your lesson.
Facts.
Right?
So that's kind of outdated, because no, if you as a parent ain't involved in your child's, learning system, and this child's struggling, and this school only doing this much, then we're at an impasse. So we have to, as Virgin Islands, we gotta get more involved in our kids' school, in their lessons, and what they're learning and how they're learning. So
But to add, because you mentioned it, we live in a global world.
Right.
And that's why I said there's no
Those
excuse.
kids are seeing what the rest of the
they-
world look
doing
like.
it. Yeah.
They actually doing it,
Right.
right? And many of them
yeah,
going online and signing up for their own program. The parents don't even know they're involved.
facts.
Right.
Right? So my point is, there's no excuse for parenting today when it comes to involving your children
Yes.
or in opportunities that is for them.
Yes.
And on a higher level, I really want to say this. We get so you started off asking about leaving the community,
Right.
right? I'm on a wealth building journey, right?
Right.
As we all are.
Right.
And I had to make a decision. Am I going to remain in the Virgin Islands working and establishing my business here alone? I had to make that choice.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't going to do that,
Yeah.
right? I cannot build the wealth that I want
Mm-hmm.
just staying in the Virgin Islands.
Did that give
The
you some?
population is too small.
Sorry, did that give you some anxiety
No, not at
to
all.
leave?
Not at all.
No, you were just
And the thing is, I haven't left.
right. You
The
haven't.
thing is,
Just branched
how
out.
You
how
frequent there so much.
how I
You-
design my life.
Right.
How I design my life is, I still reside in the Virgin Islands. My home is in the Virgin Islands,
Right.
right? My family is in the Virgin Islands. My
Right.
husband, my children, my parents.
Right.
I still live home. I just design my life where I can live in America as well.
Yes.
Right.
God bless, thank you, God.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't do that some years ago,
Yeah.
but today I'm just blessed to be able to do that because I intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I intentionally took my steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that to say you have to decide
Mm-hmm.
what your life is going to be like. And if it is for your children, you're moving to this place or you taking this job, or if that is your focus,
Mm-hmm.
you have to do what's great and best for your economy, your
Yes.
personal economy,
Facts.
right?
Facts. I like that.
So Kyle mentioned he was a C student, right? And
I'm gonna touch on that
And
too.
people hear that, but when you look at Kyle now, Kyle represents an A student.
Mm.
Right? And when you look at me, or if you traditionally just look at how my life traversed up to now, you would think that I was a C student. And when I talk to my kids, I ain't as pressed about your grades as I'm pressed about discipline in school, which is be what you're supposed to be. So I tell my daughter at the time, like, we could talk about the grades after. Be what you're supposed to be. This is what school is, Amira. School is about teaching you how to be what you're supposed to be, do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do. Kyle always knew that. Even though he wasn't making good grades, I never knew that. So in adult age, he never struggled with being what you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do. Even though he struggled with the book education. I never struggled with the book education, but I always struggled with being what I'm supposed to be, doing what I was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I ain't doing no homework. I ain't going to class. I just gonna take the test. I'm gonna pass the test and I got A, but I ain't doing no homework and I ain't going to class. Yeah. And I looked at it from an educational standpoint, but when I became an adult, I started to look at it from a discipline standpoint, and which makes me talk about discipline to my children. And I haven't spoken to Kyle about this, but I'm pretty sure Kyle focuses on making good grades more than discipline because he's already disciplined. Yeah. And his kids see that discipline. Yeah. So now he get to focus on grades. My kids see undisciplined. So I have to preach discipline and they're doing good in school. You see what I'm saying? So when in your time, and you're always an educator, once an educator, I was an educator, you're always teaching. How do you see those two different students, see the end game, and how do we combat that in our system?
So now you see why we give praises to our teachers, right?
Right. Yeah.
Big up to all our teachers.
Yep.
Because they have a class of 30
right.
with
a bunch
so
of different
many different personalities
and individuals, right?
Learning styles, backgrounds, and the list goes on and on and on, right? So,
by the way, Sony is over there. Say something, Sony. She's disciplined and smart. Out of all of us, right? She make all the good grades. She's both. We is like one.
We had one and the other.
Yeah.
She had both of them.
God take the two cup them and say, hey, Sony, take all. You check.
Big up, Sony.
Right.
Oh, my God. So, to answer your question, I think I'll start on your end, right? Because you asked about the ABC student, A student, C student. And we think about the right brain, the left brainer, right? And we have the creative mind, the right brainer, very colorful. These individuals don't do well with structure, right? And then the left brainer, very analytical, orderly, structurally, right? They do everything in structure. Yeah. And these individuals thrive in school because the system is designed that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything, there's a saying in education, what gets monitored gets done, right? At the heart of that, while that is true, you're monitoring something, the more you keep your eyes on it, that anything you maintain your house, the weeds won't grow up around outside, right? Yeah, yeah. If you don't monitor those things, then you have a house full of bush. The same is true. You walk into your classrooms as a principal, you're looking at instruction to make sure quality instruction is taking place, etc. So what gets monitored gets done. But at the core of that, the way I see it, what gets measured gets done, right? Our system, we have a grading system. And we measure performance on a A, B, C, D. B is 80%, A is 90% and above, right? So we're looking at that as the quality. How well is the student performing? Yeah. So when we look at measuring students, we're not asking them, how well did you interact with your peers today? Were you nice to them? Were you verbal and articulate with them? Did you show empathy to someone who may be going through a hard time? That's not what we ask. How well you're doing in school? Yeah. You listen to the teacher? Yeah. You pass your test? You get A?
Yeah, that's it.
Right? Because we know as parents, as a society, what matters is the measure. And the A, B, C, D on the report card is the measure.
Yes.
Which is a problem. Now, the good side to that from the society standpoint, we have not good measures, because that's relative. Yeah. We have measures that we could speak to. The education system is doing well. Hey, this percent of the students are passing or failing, or right? We have easy measures. That's why standardized tests as the main form of measurement is used. It's easier done than the qualitative, right? On top of that, it becomes a problem when we use standardized tests as the main measure, which often it is. So you have this standardized test, once a year test. You have your students or children's grades from all of their work from the teacher's evaluation, which give them these grades. And that's pure academic. But then you look at the child, to your point, do we really want children passing school, doing great, performing in school academically, coming home with A's and B's, but then they coming home and disrespecting your mother, who is their grandmother, with the bad word and the cuss word and the attitude? That's not what we want out of children. So why is it that we're not reforming our education system to include the qualitative measures, the character development? Why is it always aside? Let's bring in character traits, but it's not a part of the core curriculum. And when I'm sitting here saying this, I'm not just speaking about the Virgin Islands. I'm not even speaking about the Virgin Islands. The Virgin Islands is a part of our American system.
Right.
Because look at our diaspora. You guys live in Atlanta.
Right.
But you're from the Virgin Islands. But your children are in schools up here.
Right.
And they too are affected by this grading system, right? So when we look at education, which is a part of the work, my life's work, when I talk about reforming education and being a part of that larger mission, I am talking nationally.
Right.
Okay? Because the Virgin Islands is a dot on the map, and it's affected by the larger motherland.
Right.
So
makes sense.
So tell us about your journey to get to education. When you went to Job Corps, was that your focus? Like, did you already have in your mind, like, I want to be an educator, or that came in time?
Great question. So when I went to, from a little girl, I've always had at my heart that I wanted to elevate from poverty and help others to do the same. It just would not let go, right? And I have just significant experiences growing up in poverty that stuck with me and helped me to stay with my vision of elevating. For, like, I know this ain't for me. This life ain't for me. And it's not for nobody. And I really want to help others. I didn't know how it was going to unfold. I just knew that was on my heart. So when I went to Job Corps, I was 16. I stayed the 6 months. I tested out. I was waiting for the time to pass so I could take the test. I did. I passed. And I was immediately enrolled in the community college. So I was in college at 17, and I was studying accounting.
Nice.
I wasn't aware. I didn't know where I really wanted to go, but I knew money is what I needed to get out of poverty. Because by definition, you're in poverty because you don't have enough money to provide for your basic needs. So I just knew I need to go where the money is. And I used to watch all these entrepreneurs and business people on Oprah. We had our Channel 8 Oprah. So I looked up to those people and I said, well, I got to be in business. So anyways, I enrolled in accounting. It was the most boring, boring. No, I got intrigued, honestly, by the what accounting is. Most people don't think it's accounting. By the way, choosing accounting was not going to, in my mind, I thought that was like getting into finance.
Right.
Even it's a discipline, right? But it wasn't the path for what I wanted. And it just wasn't, I'm an active person. I need to be involved, engaged, and talking and building and constructing and, with my mind and my hands. So eventually I moved back home to the Virgin Islands, and I landed a job at an elementary school as a paraprofessional, a teacher's
which
assistant.
elementary school?
Lockhart.
Not Dover.
No, Lockhart.
Lockhart.
Now,
Okay.
since you're on the topic, talk about them demon children that were in Lockhart. And how they bring you
Demon children went to
gray
Lockhart
hair.
school.
And they didn't bow. What
I
are
would
they?
never, never describe my babies as demons.
Hey,
Thank you.
all my family. Hey, I was actually jealous, man.
So
All
when
my
you had to
family
switch
went
from
Dover.
Racquel school, you know, she beat up a girl.
You went Dover?
I went Dover.
And
I went
Carol.
Dover.
Oh, you got bulldog.
I was
No,
a
she-
bulldog.
Bulldog.
So I was jealous because I was the only one that went Dover. He and my other cousin, everybody in Lackout, and it seemed like a party, and they're like, I ain't Dover with all these savant, man. What you doing here? So I shut up bulldog.
That's a real thing, you know.
Yeah,
That's a
man.
real thing.
So when you were too bad for Racquel school,
Sonny,
the man had to
4
run.
foot
So
2
when you had to Racquel school, you had to go private school.
the smallest one is always the baddest
I
one.
tell
Like.
you.
She does still beat
I
us up
was,
to this
I
day.
was so
Why we have
sad
to go
when
back
Aunt
to-
Carol take her out of school. I was like, what my God?
Why we have to go back to that story? But I'm glad to know lack of school in the building. Hey, we go places, yo.
But that was I started there. Actually started on the high school level, CAHS, and then I transitioned immediately to Lackout School as a teacher's assistant, as a paraprofessional. And while I was there, I was going to sign up for the University of the Virgin Islands to now get my bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I was starting that summer of 2002,
Mm-hmm.
the summer of 2002. And I am saying, I'm in the school, and I'm saying, I know I have to go in a profession that's going to pay me well,
Mm-hmm.
so I could escape poverty conditions
Mm-hmm.
and be able to help others to do the same.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and I'm seeing all these little Racquels
Mhm.
around me every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day,
Mm-hmm.
teachers telling me, we don't make no money. You're still young. You could do this. You could do that. Then you have another set. Join the education. You're so good at it.
Mhm.
And I just saying, what do I do, Lord?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know teachers don't make the money they need to make.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I can't survive on a teacher's salary. It's
Yeah.
not going to get me to where I want to
To
be
go, yeah,
financially in the time frame that I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I was caught between a rock and a hard place.
Mm-hmm.
But my heart went over my head
Mm-hmm.
because of those little Racquels I
Yes.
saw
Yeah.
in poverty. They were dealt the same hand that I was dealt
Mm-hmm.
as a child.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up in education. So I enrolled at the university for education, and then I got my bachelor's degree
Mm-hmm.
and started to teach. Big up to the Michael J. Corwin, now Gladys Abraham.
So
That's why I
Corwin
started.
Terrace School.
That's why I started to teach as
It's
a teacher.
Gladys Abraham.
Yeah,
They
I
changed
would-
to Gladys Abraham.
Yes. So that's a long time now.
I mean,
Ain't
Yeah.
called
we
Corwin
went
no more?
split session
Well,
now.
it's
me.
called Corwin for who know it as Corwin.
Well, it's Corwin
right?
for
Yeah.
me. We went
Yeah.
split
Like how
session now.
Kmart
me.
is still Woolworth for my
Yeah,
grandmother.
Exactly.
Right.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
Right.
When I got my degree, that's the school that I was hired to
So
teach at.
were you teaching after Maryland when we had split session?
No, I wasn't in education then.
And then okay,
Yeah.
cool. Because we went to Corwin. That was my first introduction to being in that school. Lackout had to go down
Like
there.
how I get blood on Kai were weak.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Dover
that's
stand
the
up.
trailers. Yeah, I
Sure.
remember.
Dover stand up.
Oh, there's a
I
fight.
tell you,
Whatever.
we were back in school the next day.
It's whatever. It's whatever.
We
No
were
one knows
concrete.
that school.
Our
We know the
foundation
direction.
strong.
If it's one thing, rivalry between schools in the VI will never end.
Never.
You can't even put
Oh
Dover
my
in Apple
God.
Maps and find it. You could put Lackout School in Apple Maps and
That's a
find it.
VI thing, you know. That's a VI thing. I love it. So to answer your question, I was caught between a hard place, a rock and a hard place, and my heart went over my head,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I ended up in education.
And most people, I was like, teachers is more of a passion project than
Oh
a money.
yeah,
It has to
Oh,
be,
yeah.
right?
It is.
Has to be.
Listen, you don't teach and remain the course
Mm-hmm.
if it's not in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, teaching is not it's not the academic discipline that you're the subject matter.
Yeah.
It is not. It
Yeah.
is lives,
Mhm.
humans
Yeah.
that you're literally influencing,
Mhm.
supporting.
Mhm.
Every day they come to school, it might be they coming from a house with mommy, daddy,
Yeah.
arguing this morning.
Mhm.
You have to focus their mind.
Mhm.
In my case, I came to school lots of days.
Yeah.
Happy as a child, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up with the richest of love in family,
Mhm.
but poorest of
Yeah.
from money, lack of money.
Yeah.
So you have children coming every day
Mhm.
with whatever baggage they come in with from home, the community, who was scared to walk to school that morning because they have somebody bullying them or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to get them in the right frame of mind. And that's why relationships, teachers having relationships, that's the very first thing that you have to have.
Yeah.
Because that academic ain't going no place.
Yeah.
If that barrier, the wall, is not broken down.
Facts. So you were talking, so you went from, after University at Virgin Islands, your first gig was Corwin.
As a teacher.
And then, so walk us through from Corwin, where you went from there, and then.
Sure. So I taught elementary education, and at that time in our education system, there was a new math program, a new math curriculum that was being introduced. Every certain amount of years, we upgrade our curriculum, our teaching resources. And the math curriculum at the time was being introduced and rolled out. So they needed what we call coaches. So you have a reading coach, a math coach, to support teachers in those areas. So that was my next, that was actually the start of my leadership experience in education.
Gotcha.
So I became the math coach down at Gladys Abraham, Cohen. And that's where, because of the nature of the role, you're supporting teachers. So I had to go into extensive training myself, not just to learn the new material, but to be able to be of support to other professionals, right? So that was the start of my leadership experience. Now, when you're a coach in any school, you have other responsibilities, meaning because you're not teaching a class every day, that's not your role anymore. You have other committees to be on. So the school improvement team, where we strategize to improve our school, that was a main staple for me. So while at that time, I was studying my own personal finance education to help, because I walk in, I'm a teacher, I have this great title, I'm making whatever salary. At that time, I think it was, I don't remember the salary at that time. But the point is, I'm doing my own education to become more financially astute as an individual. But being a part of the school improvement team, that's where I was introduced to government budgets, education budgets specifically, because that's where we would get our funding to support all of our extra supporting curricular activities. So from the, and I intentionally say that because that shaped my belief today when, with respect to financial literacy, I don't believe that we need to be educated only on personal finance. I think if you're truly financially literate, you are also educated on financial systems of the world, which shapes our world, right? So that's another story. So I moved on to that, and that's where I gained my leadership footing. And then after that experience, I went to work for the district. So by then, I had my administrator's degree. So I was in UVI. I never stopped school. And I got my educational administrator's degree. So what that degree, the opportunities that come, the employment opportunities that would come with that degree, you could either take the route of going into a school to be a principal, or you could take the route of the district, where the superintendent's office is, to work there as an administrator. So you're either in the school as an administrator or the district.
Gotcha.
I took the district route.
Okay. So were you the ambitious type, or did it just flow in the direction of superintendent, commish? Were you thinking about, hey, if I go, I could be more help if I go this direction versus this direction?
Yeah.
Am I ambitious enough? Were your eyes already set on the commissioner
I was
job?
very strategic and intentional in my journey in education.
Okay. You had a plan. You know where you wanted to go.
And I want you to understand,
right.
It started from my heart's desire.
Right.
Meaning, I was on a route to make sure I was not living in poverty.
Right.
My children didn't have to. And how I could help others. Because
Right.
I didn't have that. I didn't have anybody telling me, this is how you get out of poverty. This is how you provide for yourself. You know, you look and you admire certain people and you follow their journey. That's but you don't have an intentional focus
Right.
of a route, a pathway.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I wanted to be able to do that for others. I just had to do it for myself first. So anyways, that has always been my motivation. Ending and elevating from poverty and being able to help others. So with that, that's why I took the the district route.
Right.
Hats off to all my principals in schools. They have more of a, if you're going to go the long run, you have to have stability. You have to dedicate yourself to that school system because you could go to any school. You're not assigned to no one school, but that as a profession.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Requires a certain skill set, and it takes time to master that, right? Or to be effective, like any leadership position. I didn't want that. I know a journey I wanted. So I went on the district side, the administrative side, because I could go from any director position, you know, and learn the system of education.
Gotcha.
Because, and here's why I did that. Growing up, what did you hear? Education is the key.
Right.
Education is the key. Education is the key. I believed it, right? And it's not until I got into education as a profession, I realized, okay, I could help these children. Let me go take my bachelor, right? I gonna stay. Forget the money. These little Racquels around me. And it's not until I started to grow in my profession. So, but wait, I grew up all my life hearing education is the key. I drink the Kool-Aid and education is the key. I even know an educator.
Yeah.
But what I realized, the Kool-Aid was just the foundation. Traditional public education, any general education, private is just the foundation. And we do our people a disservice when we tell them education is the key. What that really means is continuous ongoing education is the key. Not you go to school, you graduate from 12th grade and you're done.
Yeah.
That's not the key.
Yeah.
And really,
even if you go to college and you're done,
and you're done.
still learning.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So when we say education is the key, what I've come to learn is ongoing. And regardless of what profession you're in, you got to constantly learn, right?
And it's great. It's crazy that you said that because I have clients right now in my business. I have a credit repair business. And I have clients that will come to me and say, Kyle, I'm in debt and I just need help trying to get out of this debt. So I'd be like, the first thing we need to do when we're in debt is add more income, right? Well, I've been at this job since I graduated high school and I don't make X amount of dollars an hour. And I'm like, so what's your plan? How long you see that for yourself before you decide you got to add more income? Well, you know, I ain't this and I ain't that. And it's like a lot of excuses. But to go back to what it is you're saying, ongoing education. So there's programs I know that would help Virgin Islanders to be, like, for instance, there's a university right there in the Virgin Islands. In the Virgin Islands. There's a university in the Virgin Islands right there.
Right.
And there's a lot of grants and programs, I'm sure, that would help people that want to get an education to get it. So it's just to back up what it is you say, when you say ongoing education is the key to life, I'm a firm believer of that because we can't just say we graduated from high school. I did it. What's next?
You know, that's the biggest problem we have, right? I mean, people who...
It's so long. It's 12 years. Of course I did it.
Well, God, when that is the highest aspiration for your parent, that's a problem.
Yes.
Because once you reach, if they're showing you that is the pinnacle of success, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why we have a lot of grown Virgin Islanders with high school diplomas and no type of further education. I even gotta be college. It could be anything, a certificate, anything to make you better in your craft so that you could add more income so you can have a better life.
Absolutely.
When you on that journey, you took two different paths. You could have went the principal route, you went the administrative route.
The district.
As in anything, even when I work in jobs and I climb the ladder, I seem to get a little bit more political and it creates more obstacles. You have to do things a different way. Do you feel like, was it being political in a sense, an obstacle for you when you started to climb that ladder and come into them different places? You know what I mean? 'Cause,
Absolutely.
She don't deserve it. You got DD.
Let me. Oh, we could
You know,
definitely
And
talk
being
about
so
that.
young,
you're
like
right.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you're one of the youngest in that space, and you're right.
I've hit several records.
Yeah,
Right.
Being the youngest.
I got
Right.
you.
So I'll actually answer your question because what I'm saying is going to lead into
Right.
to that. So to finish off with what you asked,
Mm-hmm.
once I got into the district level administration experience,
Mm-hmm.
I knew I could go anywhere in that space
Mhm.
because my goal was to learn education is the key.
Mhm.
So let me learn this education system.
Yeah.
This is how I gonna help my little Racquel.
Yeah,
See, because everybody in the education system didn't have my experience.
yeah.
A lot of them grew up in poverty because we're all from the same Virgin Islands,
Mhm.
but many didn't. And even some who did, forget that they did.
Mhm.
I remember having a heated discussion where I had to put, as we would say locally, put somebody in a place
Yeah.
because we're in a professional meeting.
Mhm.
And this part, we were talking about a student. This student at the time, this was before all the hurricanes.
Mhm.
And we were in the curriculum center where the superintendent office is. And we're in a meeting. And this one individual, because this one individual doesn't reflect us as a people, meaning this education community.
Mhm.
They don't. They actually sat in there talking about this child. And, he come from up there. He come from right up there in Hidden Valley. And that's, in other words, you ain't even had a child side yet. You ain't had a story as to what are the facts, what are the supporting evidence,
yeah.
You done rule a child out.
And write him off.
I say, let me tell you something.
Mhm.
I
come from right up in there.
Ras Valley.
Mhm.
Okay? And we're going to treat this child
Mhm.
and give them the same opportunities that we would any other child.
Yeah.
Let's hear the facts.
Exactly.
Come to find out it was the teacher wrong.
Mhm.
So my point is, not many of them understand where our children come from. And those that do, most times it's like, I ain't dealing with that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm seeing all these little Racquels, and I decided I want to learn this education system.
Mhm.
I was supporting the data and assessment, so all of the tests within the standardized tests and any form of assessments for all the schools. So a principal deals with one school. If you're in the district office, you deal with all schools. So I was data and assessment for all schools, while the principal only deal with data and assessment for their school. Make sense?
Right.
So after that position, I had an experience being the director of Virgin Islands Cultural Education.
Nice.
So what that is it's an office designed specifically to promote, preserve our culture, support our schools in implementing and keeping our culture alive. In the shortest summary, right? Did the deputy superintendent thing. All along there, I was teaching night school at the University of the Virgin Islands in the teacher education program.
Yeah.
So aspiring teachers, the same journey I went on, becoming a teacher at UVI, my degree.
Yeah.
I was supporting students who were seeking acquiring their bachelor's degree as well.
Right.
So my journey on that level has been that. Then after that, I went into the deputy superintendent space and then commissioner of education.
Yeah.
All of that being motivated. I know Racquel, regardless of who thought what, to your question now, I've had every challenge possibly on my journey. That's not unique to me.
Right.
Anybody if you decide to breed in this world,
Right. Challenges.
challenges and obstacles, right?
Right.
I've had more on top of that because, she from right? Who is she? And she got GD. Well, she can't be the commissioner of education.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
At the same time, when we think of the Virgin Islands, and we're here to elevate our people through conversation, right? That's the podcast, to elevate and educate.
Yeah.
And we can't talk about the good without talking about the bad.
Yeah.
And I've had my share of crab in the barrel syndrome. And that's unique to any
Every
small
place,
town.
yeah.
Any Caribbean island, the same thing. Any small town in America, the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Because the population is only so big.
Yeah.
So I've had my crab in a barrel syndromes.
Right.
Starting from when I was leaving the classroom to go to the district office.
Right.
And don't think that these people have to be lower than you in title. It was an administrator, one of my administrators who were trying to keep me from progressing
Right.
at the time.
For whatever
so they don't
reason
have to,
happened.
you don't have to be somebody from the street. Professionals, because we in the same little bubble. And the only thing they could see is that you're a threat to them. Anybody that's out to get you, they're seeing you as a threat when they don't have to.
Yeah,
Just need to all walk in our own lane.
Exactly.
But I've had that every step of the way. Granted, it's not everybody even wanted what you want, you know. You just can't be the one to get.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So now that we reached to the commissioner part, and not that because there's more to you. Obviously, we went through a whole
Right, there's
thing
so much we
before
haven't
commissioner,
discussed.
and then there's more after that. That's not your final stop, right?
No.
But a lot of people are interested in the commissioner part as well because it's really a significant role that helps shapes our community, our children,
Correct.
and stuff like that. How kind of people watch our podcast, right? Smart people, slow people, ghetto people, rich people. And I want
You just say slow
ones.
people?
No, because I one of the slow
None
ones.
of our
Kyle, I didn't even hear that.
subscribers are slow.
No,
There might
I-
be one
I
person
don't go
here
back
that's
and watch-
slow, and that's the
Listen.
person that say we get slow people watching.
Listen, Commish, I don't go back and watch our podcast and I'll be like, man, you stupid. You ain't
Well,
as smart
Redman,
as you
speaking
think.
for yourself.
I
I
will
am.
not claim
If
that
you
over
follow
you, Redman.
current-
No, I claim it over myself.
You're not
I
slow.
know.
That's
if
a
you
smart
know half
decision
of the
in
things
itself.
that'll be going through my brain,
Oh my God.
I stupid.
See, he is the bright C student.
Oh,
We minded him.
gosh.
I'd have a problem understanding the difference or the responsibilities, how they work together. Should it be or should it not? Department of Education and Board of Education.
Okay.
I personally, as a citizen, that don't have no knowledge of the system, I just sit down and be like, why do we have these two entities and why are they not, like, what is the struggle? What is the battle? And I had a good friend of mine in education. I'm going to shout out Kendra Vickers. I used to have these conversations with her all the time.
I know Kendra.
You know Kendra, right? Very, very bright
Yes,
person.
very.
And then my mother helped raise, because we grew up in a green, you know the green building from
Probably
Barbados?
both.
Kaiser used to, you know what I mean? So I used to be like, what is the difference between Board of Education and Department of Education? Do they work together? Do they work against each other? Is it a barrier? Like, is that system, does that need to change?
No, I'll answer your question.
Tell me why I think
Tell me why that's a question in your mind. Like, what have you seen that led to that?
I've just been privy to some casual conversations where it seems like the department wants to do something, but it can't happen without the board or vice versa.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know if these two departments ain't working cohesively, then what do we expect out of our
And I was
children?
2 years old when I found out that
Today,
they're
right,
different.
This is why
You know what I mean? I thought they were the same.
I thought they were the same thing.
No.
So now that the expert is here,
Two different responsibilities.
Okay.
Two different responsibilities. So the Board of Education, let me start with the mainland. That will help you to understand our local structure.
okay, cool.
So on the mainland America, we usually have the Board of Education hires the superintendent
Mhm.
of that school district.
Right.
That superintendent has several schools within their district with several principals in each school. In the Virgin Islands, so the superintendent reports to the board.
Right.
That's their boss.
Right.
That's the structure on the mainland. They have a state office, and they usually call it's very rare that you would have somebody named commissioner.
Right.
One or two states does it, but they would normally call that person the state superintendent because the others are district superintendents. In the Virgin Islands, we call our state superintendent commissioner.
Okay.
That's the role I served in.
Okay.
The superintendents are district. We don't even call them district superintendent. Really, we call them insular superintendents.
Okay.
But they're over the districts.
Right.
Just a play on words, right?
Right.
Terminology. The Board of Education and the Department of Education has two different roles, two different functions.
Okay.
Now, our system was designed, remember, we're birthed from our environment, our experiences, who we are, right? The Virgin Islands Board of Education was created under the Organic Act. And within that act, board members are elected.
Mm-hmm.
All the board members are elected. So they're on a rotation cycle where they would run for re-election. If you're running for something, you're a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're trying to get votes, right?
Right.
That's at the core of their role number one.
And the board.
The board.
The board. Okay.
They don't hire and fire the district superintendents,
Right.
like the mainland.
Like the mainland.
That's not a power and control that they have.
Okay.
They don't have authority.
Should they have it?
Well, that's another story.
That's another
we could get
story.
into.
Okay, cool.
But to answer your question, that is the structure, the
Right.
design, right? Some may argue, which I argue, that we definitely need to update the design of the board. Everybody should not be elected. Everybody on a board, any board should not
Right.
have all elected people to serve.
Some appointed, some elected.
Appointed, some elected, and some there appointed because of their expertise.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
But
Track
when you
record.
have all people elected, it's just another politician.
Mm.
Right.
Anybody that have to run for votes, you trying to sway and convince, your constituents, your voters.
Right.
And I'll share with you quickly before I move on.
Right.
I've had one of the board members tell me when I was commissioner, she would send me things on the side all the time because they're politicians. They're trying to win over. They're trying to influence you
Right.
and win over so that their agenda
Right.
succeeds.
Right.
So they have their own individual agendas. And this is, I'm speaking generally, it's not
Right.
everybody.
Right.
But this one individual, and I had to tell her, look, you're going to have to meet with your board, get with the chairman of your board, and y'all come with a common agenda. Because this divisive division, it's not going to work.
Right.
And I personally don't operate as such.
Yeah.
Right. So it
So-
felt like the board was already divided.
The board is always
Always
divided. because of
We
by
haven't
the
even get to
nature of
the
its design, it
yeah.
has to be.
Right.
Yeah.
You see what
But
I'm
we
saying?
didn't even get to the Department of Education.
We ain't got to
yet.
the department yet.
We still stuck on the
We're
board.
still on the board.
God, I'm ready to quit school.
So
Done, man.
Ready to drop out?
Yeah, go on, drop out. No. It get too much.
you gonna stay in school.
Okay,
In
good.
the name, you gonna stay in school.
Okay.
So so I had to tell her, look, you need to get together with your chairman and let's have a common agenda when you come to me. We could agree on things. So that's just to show you. You know what her response was?
Right.
I don't work for the chairman.
Mm.
My constituents is who I work for.
Yes, sir.
Mm.
She's going for her votes.
Telling you.
Right.
Okay? So that explains why I believe we need to have some appointed.
Kind of,
some-
right,
right.
right.
Now, so they don't have jurisdiction over the department, the day-to-day operations.
Mhm.
Okay? They have funding from the local funds so that they could function and operate, number one. And they do various things like scholarships, for example.
Right.
But at the core of the heart of their work is developing the policies. For example, the graduation requirements, the courses that are mandatory to take, etc. All of the requirements for our students to go through.
This is the board.
This is the board.
Okay.
Right? But the day-to-day function and execution of schools operating is the department's job. Okay?
Which the department is more heavily, primarily educators.
Absolutely.
So then why is the board, who is elected officials, who probably ain't even heavily educated or
In education.
in education, telling us what the requirements is for you to graduate?
Because some members of the board, number one, and are educators,
Right.
but it is safe to assume everybody serving are educated.
Right.
That may not be true
Mhm.
because it's a vote. I
Right.
could rally my crew
Exactly.
Right.
and get as many votes.
I
But
know
we
I
want
could-
to assume
Right.
that we the electorates elect people
Right.
that can represent them.
You heard
We
that?
want to
If me and he
assume-
run today, we could be.
If I run
we
All
could-
right.
I
I
read
run
it.
it.
And I didn't
I
even know
win.
until today
So
that they were
remember,
two different entities.
I answered your question,
You
but
did.
I didn't say.
No, you
said
did.
it.
Yeah.
So imagine a bunch of everyday people that ain't too versed in this education world appointed on these boards because the popular and people like them.
But
And I'm not taking nothing
that's
away.
customary in our islands.
Right. And I ain't taking nothing away from what the function of the board's supposed to be. But I just
The process,
the
man.
process.
The
Like
process.
I would
Need
rather
help.
somebody who's been teaching or somebody who's been in touch with children and just on the education side decide, especially with our ever-changing world, right? Because some of these people are just outdated.
Yeah.
So our educator is educating throughout generations, right? Because some people will teach my children, could say, hey, these is what the requirements is to graduate from school, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, to piggyback on what you just said,
Right.
To bring clarity, especially for our viewers, that's why we need the board to be made up differently.
Right.
Some appointed, because then you could say we need an educator. Because I don't believe all the board members should be educators, because then it will be a lopsided board.
Yeah.
We need different perspectives, different expertise. The parents, some parents need to serve on the board, right? Like that should be an intentional position.
Yeah.
Right.
Educators, clearly, some past education leaders, right? Because current, it's a conflict of interest for you to work for the department and still serve on the board.
Yeah.
But it has to be a variety, right? To have a well-balanced board.
How often do they vote for the board?
I think it's a 2-year cycle, if I recall.
Right.
And if 1 or 2 might be 3 years, only because we need to have a staggered approach where the whole entire board is not
Up for election.
at the same time.
So my thing is like if I just get a position on the board today and I have a plan that has to be implemented in 4 years, a 4-year plan. It's super dope and they're gonna change things and they're gonna help things. But if I can't win another seat, I ain't gonna make it to that 4-year plan.
That's every politician.
This is what he's saying, man.
That is the challenge.
Education,
that is the challenge of every elected official. It is. But if we have enough time, we could definitely get into that, right? I really want to finish off your question because it's important. A lot of people, I didn't understand the structure until I started to work for the department.
Right.
And it wasn't early in my career that I understood the structure. It was on my journey. So imagine the layman who's not in education, right there in our very own community don't understand the structure. So I think it's an important conversation we're having as well. So with the Department of Education now, the commissioner reports directly to the governor.
Right.
Right?
Which would be what your role is.
Which is right.
But in the States, their boss was the board.
Depends.
Depends.
So there's a very few states
Right.
where their state commissioner, which is their commissioner, I'm sorry, their state superintendent,
Right.
who is equivalent to the commissioner in the Virgin Islands,
Right.
report to the governor.
Right.
Very few states
Very
is
few.
political.
Okay. Ours
Some-
will report to the governor.
No, majority have a state board.
Okay.
So you have the state board of education and you have the district board.
Board. Okay.
So every school district in America has a district board.
Right.
So if I'm the superintendent of this district, I have a board. My friend over here, my colleague who's a superintendent over there, they have a total different board.
Right.
Right? That's the mainland. We only have 2 school districts in the Virgin Islands.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 2 districts, but you have one board governing both. And it's just our structure.
Right, right.
This ain't this history.
This history. Yeah.
The commissioner now of education is appointed by the governor.
Okay.
And then the district superintendents report to the commissioner. You see?
Right.
Now, politics could play,
Right.
and which it normally does. And the governor could also appoint superintendents.
Right.
Because you're building a team.
Right.
Right? So that the day-to-day operations, the state level deals with policies, more policies, not operations.
Right.
And I'm speaking very broadly.
Right.
Because trust me, you don't have the time of the day to go through this,
Right.
to
Right.
get deep into
Right.
this. But the state office deals with the state function,
Right.
and the district office deals with the operations and implementation of schools.
Okay.
Okay? The teaching and learning.
Now, you were in education. Were you in administration during the hurricanes?
Which hurricanes?
Well,
The last
Irma
Maria.
Maria. Yeah.
Maria.
Irma Maria was deputy superintendent.
So your whole, for most of your tenure in administration, you went through 2 hurricanes with the back-to-backs, and then he's at the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So I want to know what were the challenges and how, because you can't please everyone,
Oh, never.
right?
You never.
So what were the challenges of navigating our children, our society, from an education perspective through all of that? Not just the pandemic, because I think people forget, like, after Irma, we probably had like 2-3 years to breathe. And then
And the pandemic.
Our children were still psychologically
struggling
managing
from
to get over
the hurricane and the pandemic came.
Right.
So can you talk about that experience as far as what were some of the challenges, what were some of the successes, if you have any regrets, if you could, or not regrets, but if you could change something different, what would it have been looking back?
Great question. So I was deputy superintendent, serving as deputy superintendent during the Irma Maria. And that's what really flipped education as we know it in the Virgin Islands upside down.
I could imagine.
Right.
Really. Because we had already have donkey years of buildings that were old, very aged.
Right.
We went to school in aged buildings.
Right.
Imagine the
Right.
same buildings today.
Right.
And that's just not something that our people never understood. They never were satisfied. They never could comprehend. And it made it no different. It just made it worse, right? To your point, to make it very clear from the jump, we could never satisfy all.
Right.
We know that, right? And in leadership, you have to understand that. If you don't understand you cannot please everyone, you're not going to survive.
Right.
You're not going to survive. You have to be able to take the punches, roll with the punches, get up when you get knocked down and keep it moving. If you're going to make progress, because that's the only way. The great Frederick Douglass, without struggle, there's no progress. So, Irma Maria, we were out of house and home at that time.
Right.
We had to navigate new buildings to, as a matter of fact, Iwa is where the superintendent's office moved to. So we had to function out of that. So
when you say Iwa, you gotta be like
the Edith Williams Academy.
I'm about to say that, or say like round the corner from that dumb style over there. Because I straight freeze. Iwa. So when you say Edith Williams, I know
So
Edith
Fort
Williams.
Milliner, right up the road. Because if you say Price Smart, a lot of people want.
Right.
Some people might know what Price Smart is.
Right before the painted walls.
Right.
That you said that I go to school on the side.
Yes.
I got it.
If you say Fort Milliner, people from before will know.
Right.
Who moved away for so many years. So that became the superintendent's office.
Okay.
And those students, we had to relocate them. And I think it's BCB school is where we relocated them. That was a brand new school and they had those additional classrooms that we could have used. But the whole long and short of it is the Irma and Maria hurricanes, what they did was they brought to surface how bad our facilities were.
Right.
It's not like we didn't know. We've always known that.
Thought Maryland did that, but I guess it wasn't.
No.
We needed 2 more back then.
When I served, the oldest building was 180 something years old.
Jesus.
That's one wrong the field?
No, actually it was in St. Croix.
In St. Croix, okay.
Yeah. But that was the oldest building at the time. I'm not sure if they're using it now.
Old.
I'm not sure if the department is using it
Okay.
now. For operations.
Yeah.
But I know that was the oldest building when I served.
Right.
So the whole point with the hurricanes is that it brought to light like how bad our buildings were. Meaning we didn't take action for so many years. It's time to take action.
Now,
The good thing, because there's always 2 sides to every coin, the good thing that the hurricane did that blessed us in the Virgin Islands is that it gave us the funding to be able to build our schools.
Yeah.
It is the state's responsibility to build your schools. That's not a federal responsibility. So when we get monies from the federal government, that is to support your core that you already have.
Right.
It's not to give you new.
Right.
So our curriculum, for example, what we teach, our resources in our schools,
Right.
that's considered our core curriculum, right? That's local dollars. But to support that, we apply to the federal government to get more monies. And those funds is what helps us. We wouldn't survive without those funds, believe it or not.
So pretty much we should have been able to rebuild our schools from our own dime, and the federal government would just assist us in what we already started doing. That's what you're saying?
No. So what I'm saying is, with respect to the hurricanes, our infrastructure didn't improve over so many years because there were no local dollars going to improve them on a grand scale. We've been patching. Right.
Yeah.
So some would argue we didn't have the money. Some would argue we have the money, but you mismanaged the money. You put it to where you want.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the argument goes,
The fact still
the
remains
fact still remains there were
Wasn't done.
no local dollars going
to the schools.
right to build a brand new school one at a time.
Yeah.
So here we are now. The hurricanes come, and it's like we really in a bad condition.
Right.
The good thing is we got federal dollars to do what the local dollars were supposed to do all along. So it's like, thank God for Orman Maria, right?
Mama Maria saved a lot of people.
It hurt us over here, but like everything else, it has its good and its bad.
But
So that was one of the benefits.
Even to that, I just got an argument probably about a month ago online. Of course, I was arguing online with somebody, but it's neither here nor there. They were saying, I was like, we just got all this money from the hurricanes to fix these schools. Schools and fix it. They were like, oh, well, you don't understand that with federal dollars, the zone. No.
That was
not-
it.
That was
up
over
there
here.
with the
Right. And I can't
the
remember
All
her
We
name. I
Need
wish
Is
I could
We.
shout her because she's such a smart.
What's her name? I know her name.
She's very smart.
Shout out TK and the
Right,
Gathering
and the
Spot.
whole Gathering Spot
TK,
crew.
that guy.
Right,
TK.
the whole Gathering Spot crew. But she was there in the audience, and I was speaking about this, and she rebutted, which I love rebuttals because you can't
keeps
move
us
a
sharp,
society
exactly.
forward without discourse, right? But she was saying it was a zoning issue as far as spending the federal money, and then Charlotte Amalia being in a flood area, and then I'm like, well, then why did we build it in a flood area? So that means that practically ensures that we never get to fix this school over. What are we going to do? So this might be out of your purview, but knowing that you are in the department, and probably can you shed some light on why hasn't anything been done? Why Cancrine still look the way it look? Why Charlotte still look the way it look? I don't know why Ivana looks like right now. I think they're pretty better off than most, but why are we still in a space where our children are in modular classrooms?
to
Because
any-
we spoke earlier about environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a few things.
Mhm.
And again, I'm speaking from my tenure and my
Right.
experience,
Right.
and general, because the
Right.
department would have to speak on the recent facts.
Yes.
The recent
Right?
facts, right?
Now, when it comes to our buildings, to answer your first question, which is why it seems like nothing is being done,
Right.
right? First off, the progress, as you mentioned, somebody was going to shout out, but the point is the process
Mhm.
is not done in isolation. It has many moving parts,
Right.
right? And this isn't an excuse to justify
Nothing
anything.
being done. Yeah.
It's the facts.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know when I served, for example, FEMA would come in. And when I say it's multiple parts, you have to deal with the federal government, local government, and you're playing according to the rules of who own the money.
Right.
Because you gonna give me money and I deal it out of your pocket.
Right.
I gotta go with what Kyle say.
Right.
Same with the federal government. So you're going according to their rules and regs. And the strings attached to this money is what you have to abide by.
Right.
One of the challenges that we experienced during my tenure, what I did was I created a whole operations office that didn't exist during my tenure, because the way the structure was at the time, it didn't make no sense. I'm responsible for this entire department, but maintenance is only under the districts. So what happened to the state office? What happened to the whole system? I gonna be out of maintenance? No, right? On top of that, I'm leading in a time when all these federal dollars are coming in,
Right.
and I don't have an office with experts within it. Even if we start locally and keep adding with experts who have experience, with hurricanes, etc., because that was the vision. So I opened this office, equipped it, assigned folks, hired, etc., and they were charged with the hurricanes and operations, the money for hurricanes and the development. So under my tenure, we opened the CAHS Annex. That's the skill center, the old Raffaello Whitley Skill Center. We transitioned that into
the green building behind
the
Lockout.
green building
So
behind
you
Lockout.
gotta talk to me
The green
a
building.
different kind of way, Commish.
I got you, Red
You
Man. I got
can't
you.
say names. You got to say,
We going local.
Yes.
Down by the Tamon tree.
thank you. That's how I see
green
the
building.
Virgin Islands, right?
So, and that had its politics with it too, but
Right.
you can't please everybody. So that's now the CAHS Annex. So again, you talked about programs and having students a part of feeling belongingness and feeling a part of a community. So they're actually housed, the 9th grade academy. They're housed in that space.
Okay.
So they have their own little world going on there, to better help them to succeed.
Yeah.
That was the first project we were able to do. Utilize those funds. And that is a modern state-of-the-art facility.
Yeah.
Not just infrastructurally, but from the way it's designed, it's designed for the future way of educating.
Yeah.
In the past, you would be in your teacher door, and if the door open, it's just because the classroom had. Other than that, the teacher got the door closed.
Yeah.
You in your own little wall.
Yeah.
You're not seeing what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Everything from the lighting to the retractable walls to everything. It's very modern.
Yeah.
So that was done, but it wasn't done easily. Okay, and that's just one section. That's not even a whole school.
Right. It's one section within a school.
Exactly. Right. So we have to do things according to how the pace we could go.
Right.
But one of the challenges I experienced was every 50 days, according to the federal government, to FEMA policy, they have to switch their inspectors or the person who was assigned.
It's like getting to know
us.
new person and
the
reestablish that
problem-
relationship
them of the
and
vision.
And
bring them up to speed.
The problem was
Right.
they weren't communicating on
Oh,
their
with the
end.
last one.
When
So
the
it's
switch.
like everybody new coming in, we have to go over the same
thing
process.
over.
So what are we doing?
Right.
So that's just a small example
Right.
of
A challenge, right?
why things don't move as fast as you think they should.
Were those cumbersome red tape fiascos similar in the pandemic, or the pandemic presented a whole new challenge?
Oh God. Lord help us.
Because a hurricane is
I had
familiar.
COVID 6 times.
What?
I tell
had
you,
it twice.
I had it a lot.
I never had it.
Lucky
Bush.
you.
And
Lemongrass.
I want to apologize to the Virgin Islands people for bringing COVID to the Virgin Islands.
You did?
I did.
It was you. We were wondering who it was.
Several
He
times.
nasty self.
I'm so sorry, but I had to go home. Okay?
No, you
It was
did not.
a what? Pandemic up here is home you want to go. I want to
Oh,
see
you were
a
trying to
beach.
get out.
I was trying just not be stuck here in these unfamiliar places when it's crisis.
Well,
The
thank
war
God.
was going in.
Thank God.
You-
Yo,
So
that,
we know
that
who-
was your mentality.
Yeah,
The world was going to
we
end.
need to be home a little more, see what's going on.
It's sad that you wait till the wall end to go home, and then that's when you decide to infect everybody home.
I know.
Because you thought the wall going
Well,
end.
thank
Oh, my
God.
Next
God.
apocalypse, we know who to ban it from.
Right.
Was.
Right. So tell us about the
I mean,
navigation of the pandemic.
The pandemic was definitely what we call the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because the hurricanes were infrastructure where you could see the damage and the impact. COVID, you can't see, you can't touch, you can't smell. So this is a whole new
Animal, yeah.
beast, right?
Communicating differently with your subordinates,
oh my
students.
In person.
Right, this is a
So
whole new
everything,
system.
everything. And on top of that, you're still dealing with infrastructure for
from the
schools.
last two hurricanes.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Exactly.
Right.
So, anyways, the heart of it is when it comes to the COVID pandemic. So when January 2019, I started my tenure as commissioner. And so the way the fiscal cycle, the fiscal calendar works, October is when I would get my new monies every year, right? that's when the fiscal year starts. So I had to work with the budget that I met January to September 30th that year, 2019. October 2019 to March 2020, I had my new budget. Now, I could structure that budget to fit my vision.
Right.
What's that? October, November, December, January, February. Really 5 months. Because at the beginning of March, we announced COVID.
Yeah.
Total shift.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get to execute my vision, to be honest.
Right. Your overall vision for as in your position.
Correct.
Because the pandemic kind of
Hijacked it.
It
hijacked
shifted.
it,
That had to become the priority.
Right.
Because lives were at stake.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot, and that's leadership. You have to be able to pivot and adjust and do what you have to do to get through the situation. It was absolutely not. Now, clearly, there was some who you just can't satisfy. And you will never be able to do that in any leadership position. Right? But, so here it is. I can't attach money to get things done.
Right.
And it wasn't even about, everything isn't money.
Right.
You could get things done without money. My point I'm bringing up is 5 months of freedom is what I had. My budget to execute and do this and do that. And so my goal at the time was to keep things moving while working on the bigger vision. Right? But I wasn't able to move things up a scale and work on the bigger vision. I had 5 months of a budget that I didn't even get to put towards what I needed to. So the pandemic came, we announced, and immediately we had to shift the way we learn. That's number one. We're accustomed to in-person in the Virgin Islands, while online learning may have been in operations on the mainland for so long, even though it wasn't widespread, it was in operation.
They had an understanding of it.
They were doing it. This was like brand new for us. So we had to buy the infrastructure to do this. We had to get the Zooms of, Zoom exploded.
Right.
The other one was Microsoft
Teams.
Yeah. So we used all of those systems. And then on top of that, what we did when we got our COVID funds was we purchased a laptop for every child.
Right.
Parents had the option to take or leave because, of course, you're responsible for this device.
Right.
But but the point is, every child had an opportunity to get a laptop. Some took, some didn't. No problem, as long as you log on to school. So I mean, among other things, but that was the major interruption because now there's absolutely no way I could present any new thought to even begin thinking differently about education with the staff, the students, the parents. We all on survival mode. We all trying to protect our personal health. On top of that, we're trying to navigate and learn this new world. Not just how do I log on to Teams? How do I log on to Zoom? How do I connect with my teacher? How do I battle this psychological challenge?
And internet services poor.
And internet. So we had to get internet for every child too.
Right.
Not only that, lots of our teachers probably so outdated and ain't familiar with the
themselves,
technology.
that's what I'm saying. So to introduce something new,
they were rough.
couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. That was suicide. So we had to go step by step, bit by bit with the challenges of the time, right? So we did all of that. The biggest thing that surfaced out of COVID was the social emotional needs and the mental health of our people, which rightfully, because school is a safe place. School is a safe zone for many children. A lot of our children growing up in poverty have stresses. Not only that, whether they're in poverty or not, some of them have homes that they're abused, whether it be physically, sexually, and school is a safe place.
Right.
School is where it don't happen to them.
Exactly. So that, we had to reach out to so many of our students who now are home in these conditions every day, all day, which is very, very predatory for the predator, but at the same time, very damaging mentally for the children. Yeah.
You feel like the pandemic, do you think about legacy? as a commissioner?
That's my life. Every
Right.
day. all
So
day.
do you feel like the pandemic impacted your legacy as a commissioner? Like
Both
what
ways.
like what you wanted to leave behind? And you said both ways,
No,
like
no, actually, good question. Good question. It did.
right,
Everything has its positive and negative.
right,
I think it actually, to be more specific, one of the things I was able to do because of COVID. So we just talked about the negative,
Right.
but what I was able to do because of COVID was actually expedite the vision of the department.
okay,
See, because that didn't require physical touch.
right,
We could have stayed behind and do that work electronically.
right,
And we got an opportunity to do that
right,
expeditedly. Here was a challenge if COVID didn't hit. I would have had, because we were so into our regular routine,
right,
because face-to-face is better
Right.
than behind a computer, right?
right,
But at the same time, it's very costly.
Yeah.
I would have had to book individuals to fly to one district, one island. Everybody got meet and this. We got to book the hotel space. We got to book the meeting room. We got to book food to get through the work. Who flight in cancel? Who got flat tire on the way?
Right.
It's always
Something.
something.
Yeah.
But everybody was able to log on online, and I saved a lot of money not having to get people physically there. So that was a great advantage, right?
Yeah.
The next thing is the scale, and the department is my plan is at the department.
Right.
Really, it's a vision of transformation. That was my theme. Right, it was transforming today's learners into tomorrow's leaders.
Right.
So we did a whole rebranding of the colors of the department's logo: blue, green, yellow, white. Bring it on blues,
yeah,
game-changing greens. Yes, we can yellows. We got this white. So we had a whole thing going.
I was in
rebranding.
greenhouse in Congrang.
You were in green?
Yeah,
That one, orange or one?
orange
That
was
was
one,
one.
yellow,
Orange,
Yes.
yellow house.
It's amazing you
purple.
remember that,
I mean,
right?
I
Oh,
enjoyed
the
it.
man drop away ain't much room to remember.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Good one, right?
That was a good one. High five.
He got your red man.
He catch me good when I was.
I always say that's so proud. I
Yeah,
would
man.
agree.
He go with the slip that one in.
He's slipping.
Yeah, he go with the slip that one in.
I want coming clean.
No, tough question. Resignation and dismissal. There's those of us who don't, some of us follow intently and some of us follow casually. Right? So when the news hit, it was like, oh yeah, they fired Commissioner Racquel and blah, 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 blah. And then in talking to you, it's like, no, I resign. So
Well, yes.
why resign?
So it's
Knowing
a
that you're
good
so
question.
passionate about what you're
No,
doing.
it's a good question.
Right.
So if you want to get technical, I didn't resign because I wanted to resign.
Right,
I resigned because I was told to resign.
right, okay.
Right? But it didn't come from a place of if I was fired, I would have gotten a pink slip.
Right.
That's anybody on the camera. Anybody in the Virgin Islands know when you're fired, you got a pink slip. That's a whole joke in the Virgin Islands. Don't get your pink slip. You
Right.
get your pink slip. Right?
Right.
Politics, because politics rule.
They do.
Understand when the politics shift, you shift with it.
Right.
There's no malice on my end.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no malice with me on the administration. In fact,
Right.
we have several things going. I have several things going on with
Right.
members of the administration.
Dope, dope.
Right? That's that. But I get how the reaction could be because
Right.
that's how we are as a people.
As a people, right?
But here are the facts.
Mm.
There were 3 commissioners that left the governor's administration before me.
You serve
There
2
were-
governors?
No.
You served one.
Governor Brian.
Brian,
One.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
Most commissioners don't serve 2 governors.
Right.
And that's because
You want your
you're building
team in
it.
there.
Right. Yeah. That's not the norm.
Yeah.
And it's not very healthy.
Right.
Those high executive level positions, very politically driven,
Right.
that's not good for your health.
Right.
8 years is too much.
Yeah.
Right.
So there were 3 before me. I think there were like 4 after me.
Wait, 3 commissioners,
That-
Anna Bryan before you? Or 3
That,
commissioners?
that
Right.
yeah. So we start off with a cabinet.
Okay.
His cabinet,
Ne-
there were 3 that left before me.
Okay,
and
cool.
About,
Okay, I understand.
I don't know. I don't keep up with.
Yeah.
Understood.
Right, but I know for sure there were 4 after me.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, at least 3 after me. I was number 4.
Right.
Now, to your point, I work with superintendents on the mainland every day.
Right.
my colleagues, they get fired.
Mm.
They get fired.
Right.
The board
Yeah.
fires them.
Right.
It's a difference. If I was fired, I would have been given a pink slip
Right.
and get your tail. You understand? What I did that's different to others that we don't get as a people because we thrive on the negative. 3 commissioners left the cabinet before me. I would say 3 after me that I could think of right now.
Right.
Probably there's more, I don't know. I was the only one who let the people of the Virgin Islands know.
Right.
Goodbye. It was nice serving you.
Right.
And here all of my accomplishments that I did on your behalf
Right.
as Commissioner of Education. But we only had a negative.
Right.
Right?
We only had a negative.
Right. And it wasn't all of my accomplishments.
It wasn't.
It was just some
The
because
the
you
ones
can't
that-
list everything.
Everything.
You
Right.
cannot.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Did you take it?
Right.
Because I know how passionate you is about, leadership and wanting to make the changes necessary. I could feel it. I could sense it. My mother's an educator. I say it all the time. Did you take it personally that you didn't get to stay as long as you needed to get the job that you wanted to get done?
Take it personally. No.
Right.
Not from a yes or no, but
Right.
no from a realistic standpoint.
Right.
Because no commissioner gets to execute all of their work. Every leader, no
Right.
governor
Right.
gets to execute all of their work.
Right.
You and senators are fighting their 2 years to
Right.
get back in. They have they literally every 2 years trying to
Right.
So no one gets to do that.
Right.
Realistically, no.
Okay.
But who wouldn't want
Want to.
to implement their vision?
Yeah.
Right? The good thing is I get to lay the foundation and set the vision. The portrait of a Virgin graduate, for example, that basically tells how students are to graduate. The knowledge, skills, competencies that they are to graduate with.
Right.
And also the way that was built was from my core and how and what I believe. Education is everyone's responsibility. No pun intended, my Crucian folks. That's a talk show we have. And the name of it is Education is Everyone's Responsibility.
Okay.
Big up to y'all.
Dope.
Yeah, so that's a fact. It's your responsibility as a parent. It's our responsibility as educators. And it's our elected leaders, our community, and our neighborhood leaders who are not elected, but they're the electors in their community.
Right.
It's all of our responsibility. So from that perspective, absolutely, yes. When I got in there, I had to carry on with what the previous commissioner had.
Right.
It's understood. And then when I get to do mine, then I continue. Now, I shared all of what I could with the people of the Virgin Islands. Commissioners, they get up and go and just go.
Right.
Matter of fact, no one says why they left.
Right.
They all resigned like I did.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So my point here is the strategic plan is another baby.
Right.
Right? Now, clearly the department could take it or leave it, but
Right.
it's very hard to change a lot
Right.
when a whole team of people have worked on it.
Right.
What I did was I created a council to execute my vision because it's not a one-man show.
Right.
So I had educators locally from both districts, but teachers, principals. I had student leaders, the SGA student presidents. I had community leaders. I had leaders from other government offices, parents, everyone, the board members from the Board
The
of
community.
Education. It's a community
really what you build.
council,
Right.
right? Because it's not, it's my vision, but you have to contribute and shape because this is your
And
community.
own it too. Yeah.
You got to own it.
Right.
Exactly. That was the purpose of it. So we're not pointing a finger. We're trying to change the culture of that's your department. The education, it's our. And while we have the daily task of executing, you have the task of holding us accountable for this plan for our education system that you helped to build. Right? So the point here is when you're doing great things, you're always a target.
Yeah.
When you get a ball on the basketball court, they ain't going for nobody else but you.
But the person on the bar.
So I didn't take it personal.
Awesome.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Now, before we go on to the post-public service life that you had, because we want to get into what you're doing afterwards, First, I want to thank you for your public service
You're
to the
welcome.
people of the Virgin Islands
You're
and all the excellent work. And I say excellent because anybody could stand on the outside and, navigate
What do they do?
that
They do.
pandemic without
And the
actually
hurricanes.
navigating and the hurricanes without actually doing it. So I
Yes.
really want to thank you because it takes a toll on your family, your kids,
Yep.
and all these things. So thanks to your
And
family,
many forget.
your
Many
husband.
forget that a pandemic existed.
Exactly.
Like
So-
literally today.
Right.
Yeah.
So we appreciate your family, especially
you.
your husband, because I know he had to carry some loads
Yes.
while you navigate it, and for committing yourself to our children and our community to make that great.
Thank you.
So I want to say that first before we get into the currency bag. We have this little currency bag thing.
Giving out money?
No.
Our money is knowledge.
We're
Hey,
not,
relax,
we're
relax.
not the federal government. Okay? We would like to be, but we're not. So we're going to dig into that
Okay.
bag, ask some questions, and then after that, we want to talk about your financial literacy and your
Current work?
your current work,
Okay.
because that's what Kyle is definitely into, what we're into, and then you definitely said some things about financial literacy doesn't really just only apply to money. Right,
Yes.
so we want to get into that, right?
Okay.
We've been here for a while, and I like the conversation and
Okay.
everything, but we're gonna lighten it up a little bit with that currency bag.
All right. So if you're new to it, we got a currency bag here for some questions. We're gonna ask our guests random questions, and we're gonna see if after these questions we like our guests more, we like them less, based on their answers, right? But I think we're gonna like Racquel even more.
You could answer at home to yourself.
All
Matter
right,
of fact,
Racquel.
answer in the comments.
Yeah, answer in the comments
This
and
is
like
gonna
and
be
subscribe.
fun.
Yeah. It's lit. It's lit. All right, Racquel. First question. This one
Taco
here,
Pete?
this one here gonna be a little.
No.
This one gonna be tough. Coconut tart.
Oof. Listen, before you answer this, I like you, but I will not like you based on your answer. I take these things personal.
Coconut tart, pineapple tart, or guava tart.
Coconut.
Hey, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we
I'm
here.
not you don't say guava.
We here.
West girl, I want you to
Guava
become
is next though.
Yeah, it don't matter who next.
What?
Coconut.
Guava is
What?
next.
Yeah.
Who make the cut?
Coconut.
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 Okay. Boom.
Crack
Shout
it
out
up.
all the coconut people there. Boom. That's
Coconut
done.
massive.
Ah, whoa. All right, next up. We are from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. So, country or tongue?
Country.
Country, girl.
Yeah. Oh,
Country all the way.
We were going so
you
good.
want
you know.
BCB?
BCB massive. I know
Oh,
you don't reckon you're large.
Well, my next question was, shout out to Mari or Ken?
Shout out to Molly.
Hello.
Okay, she don't say shout out,
Ken.
guys. So next question.
And you know, wait, before you move on, right? You know, as an educator and the leading educators commissioner, I had to let everybody know that I represent all schools. So you know the Ken Massive coming, she from over here.
Now we know where the favoritism came from
Yes.
during her tenure.
I
If
was
you guys were
impartial
wondering.
my entire tenure.
All right, this one ain't in the thing, but we're going to, just because of the conversation, Doba or Lacquard?
Oh God, I have to go with Lockhart because that was my first entry into education.
Thank you for tuning into the Caribbean Currency Podcast. Cut, everybody.
She redeemed
That's it.
herself with a guava statement when she picked Lacquard. We back cool again.
Yeah. Okay, the last one. The last one we got here. We are from the Caribbean, so reggae or soca?
Oh God, that's a tough one. You know.
Don't mess this up.
Why you put me in that position?
Okay, you
don't
pick
mess
Lacquard
this up.
over Doba. I'm going to just be
Jesus.
honest with you.
Soca.
Soca. Say louder, say with your chest.
Soca.
Soca.
What?
Soca. Yeah.
All right.
It's a
None of
delicate
her
balance.
students.
Uh-huh.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah, but you still
But-
need a little reggae in your life.
Yeah, oh God. It's a delicate balance.
Did you see the Bob Marley movie
I
yet?
watched it last night.
I watched it yesterday too.
What
Not
did you
yesterday,
rate
the day
it?
before.
Out of 5 stars, what do you give it?
Honestly, because I watched the lead up to it,
Right.
like all of the previews and stuff,
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Okay.
I understood what they were trying to achieve. There's
Right.
some high critics on it where
Yeah.
everybody think they could do better.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But I really appreciated it for what they were trying to portray.
Mhm.
And I don't mean to get into this, but
We
that
here.
thing,
Yeah,
right?
go ahead.
What I appreciated was the fact that Ziggy explained in all of the lead up, they were trying to humanize
Mhm.
Bob because you know idols are not
Yeah.
seen as humans,
Yeah.
and they really wanted the public to see
Mhm.
what we don't normally see and hear
Yeah.
with
Right.
Bob. And what I got out of it, so many things. We were able to get a lot of Rita's perspective.
Yeah.
Because clearly they were young,
Right.
the children. So he got a lot from the mom, Fidela, and Rita, the wife.
Right.
And we were able to even see where Bob's vulnerability, when he was a little bit of jealousy with her, we got to see the weight that he carried on his shoulders and his support to Rita.
Yeah.
You know?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I know.
Oh God, I had telling the story.
No, that's cool.
Lord,
I know the
you
story.
were
I know
supposed
the
to tell me
story.
that
I didn't
first.
pick soca. I picked reggae.
You
So I
picked
don't
reggae.
really need like a.
That's because he can't walk up in.
That is true too.
Can't walk up.
That is
He
also
waist
true.
stiff.
That is a fact. But I'm okay with that. You know, we that do dubstep and stuff
Yes.
like that. So, but I'm happy they did it that way, and you mentioned that because then it kind of shows Bob. You know, when you could get lost in Bob's story and just think it's Bob alone, and the backbone of Bob is really his mom and his wife. Even now, his story is being told because of his wife and his children, of course, but his wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm happy you mentioned that because people tend to get lost as if he was on his lonesome.
Yeah, because we see Bob and from our perspectives, right? And the time in our lives in which we meet him. And we really got Rita's story, her side, her view, her perspective, because she was there. You know, other than that, we would have, if Bob was alive today, he would have done all the interviews and you get his perspective.
Yeah.
But Ziggy was able to create that from hearing his mom tell. So it was good. I appreciate it.
Dope.
All
Well,
right.
real quick, before we go on into what you're currently doing, right? I had a quick question. Recently in the Virginals, we had a little issue where the kids went on strike, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in St. Croix. In St. Croix. They had an issue. Classrooms were hot. They wasn't comfortable, and they decided we ain't going to school no more because the classroom them hot. It had a bunch of different opinions on the issue. A lot of people supported them. Some people saying the kids supposed to be in school. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that whole situation.
And whether they should have striked or not?
Yeah, just the whole, whatever took place and just your input on the whole thing.
Sure. So, first of all, we have freedom of speech and the right to exercise the way we feel, right? And whatever issues. So, the children coming out and expressing their thoughts, their feelings, that's something we want our children doing.
Yeah.
Right? At the basic level, that is what we want. If we're gonna ask children to vote and then they push them back, I ain't gonna time with I and his politics and his politics, and then we're encouraging them not to be a part of the active process, right? So at the core level, that's what we want our children doing. But we want it also from a good space where it's meaningful and impactful and making a difference.
Yes.
Not because they were riled up from somebody else. I don't even, because sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Right.
We have adults in the community who tell them
What to do, yeah.
I don't know if it was student-led or they was inspired by adults. But so if it was, let's hypothetically pretend that it was their experience and they led the charge.
Yeah.
They know what they're experiencing, right? And whether I'm commissioner or not, at a fundamental level, we want our children's voice. We want them to express their voices within good reason, not just for so.
Yeah.
Right.
Then, secondly, if it is that, in that case, it was classrooms conditions as well. We hearing this for how long?
Yeah.
I was the last commissioner before this current commissioner. Same thing, right? And it will continue as long as the schools are in the conditions that they are, period.
Gotcha.
Okay? The support of the community, I don't believe children should be in school if they have good reason. Because again, we're stopping them from expressing themselves.
Right.
Okay.
And sometimes we as a people, if we don't open our mouths, we don't get anything done and accomplished. When I served as commissioner, some students marched and came down. I wasn't in my office at the time. I was probably in St. Croix and they were in St. Thomas. But they went to the superintendent's office in St. Thomas. I think he was in his office at the time, but I was on St. Croix, but they also went to my office. And I don't remember what the specific issue, I think it was around graduation. So in my tenure, again, if we didn't have COVID, we would have had regular graduations as we know them to be.
Right.
But in the heart of the pandemic, we did 100% virtual graduation as the world was doing. And it's amazing that people actually believe that we could have a traditional gathering in COVID.
During COVID.
Well, you know that
Elected officials. But of course, they're playing politics for their own game.
Right.
But you're leading people and you should not be that example.
right.
Elected officials will come in trying to get me to do a in person.
Right.
No,
That's
I'm going to lead and I'm
irresponsible.
going to lead the right way.
Exactly.
Okay? So I say that to say, this, I'm not big up to my guys, Pressure, Benny D, Rock City, everybody pulled through for me, and we rocked graduation 2020. We had a live virtual graduation.
Dope.
Every night, every school, if complex for this night, somebody performed. CAHS for this night, somebody performed. Every night we had Benny D, of course, represented Ken. Pressure represented CAHS.
I was like pressure more than Benny.
I think
Benny laughed at this
I think
one. That's my
the
dad.
virtual graduation that the Virgin Islands had in 2020 was probably the
The
best
be- it was
graduation
the
I've
best.
seen
It was-
ever. It was
was dope.
massive. Yes.
It was.
It was really nice.
So the children them got the
No, they were all on the virtual.
everybody were on virtual.
Right. So what we did was we took their photos,
Right.
professional, what they would have had
Yeah.
from graduation day. We pre-uploaded them into the system. We had the whole pomp and circumstance, and
Right.
everybody spoke. I gave, my
Right.
remarks, and everybody, and we created a whole movie like.
Right.
Right. And then at the end of each day, children, of course, would go out and party after graduation.
Right.
So that's where Pressure and everybody else, Benny D and them came in.
Nice.
That was great.
That's
So
cool.
so that was 2020. 2021, we did a partial because now we gained
Relaxed a little bit.
kinda
Yeah.
out
little
of-
bit,
yeah. And what we did was a drive-through. So we had a stage, the children would come, but we're not gathering in an enclosed area. We had
Right.
an open.
Yeah.
Right.
And the parents came. Actually, Central rocked that year. Central, their parents went off the chain. They had the best partial graduation.
Yeah.
The children would come, they would walk on the stage, greet us, and then they would just go straight up. No gathering. The parents drove through with cars, they had all the balloons. And then the next year, we had a full graduation.
Yeah.
But you have to take things
Yeah.
in stride. But if you're going to lead, you cannot be pressured by those
Outside
who are
noise.
not
Yeah.
sitting in your seat.
Yeah,
It's either
yeah,
you're leading or you're not.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So now, post public service, you're into financial education, literacy, and those things. Can you kind of expand, tell us about what you're into now, what you're pushing, why you're going in this direction?
Oh, absolutely. That gut, that smile. We remember now, my
Right.
life is very focused,
Right.
very driven on one thing:
Right.
ending poverty,
Right.
building wealth. Right, and that only birthed out of my desire
Right.
to want to elevate from poverty as a child
Right.
and helping others. So it doesn't sway. The public may not know because your life is your life.
Right.
You know, colleagues.
Right.
Probably I've taught with many of them,
Right.
but I don't know their personal aspirations. They
Right.
don't know mine.
Yeah.
Right.
But I knew when I was done with public service,
Right.
I was not going back to, for example, take another high-paying executive job.
Right.
And you know, education is a place that always needs
Right.
help.
Right.
Whether teachers, leaders. So get that job was the least of my worries. Matter of fact, I turned down a lot of my superintendent friends who would say, "Oh, this district have open and go apply to be superintendent there, or come work for my district. I want you to lead up this unit for me."
Right.
No. I'm gonna go full time into my fulfilling my own aspirations, and I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving this earth. I would be on my deathbed regretting if not taking a step towards some way, shape, or form helping individuals elevate from poverty. So I knew I had to take the steps to fulfill my life's work. And that's exactly what I did. I've been studying, like I said, finance, falling in debt. You're working and you have you're teacher, you're director of this, you're director of that, you're deputy soup of this, you're commission. All these like early on in my career, you have all these titles, but you're still not seeing the end of the road financially because we don't know. We weren't trained, and it's as you know, special knowledge and skills to be able to acquire financial education, right? To be financially literate.
Is that something you think should be implemented in schools?
Yeah, so that's part of my work.
Right.
So what I do is I spend more of my time, although I can teach financial literacy on a day-to-day basis, you know, after acquiring the credentials and so forth to do that. I can, but that's not where I spend a lot of my time. I spend a lot of my time advocating for financial literacy, especially nationwide, because what people will question on why you're starting the Virgin Islands. What a lot of people forget is strategy is everything. The Virgin Islands is a dot on the map. I will never forget the Virgin Islands. That's where I grew up in poverty, right? But it doesn't mean strategically that is the place you should start.
Right.
And you have to be wise enough to know whether you should or not. Now, I have great things coming up in the Virgin Islands around financial literacy. Big up to yourself. Yeah, well,
For sure.
come out.
Yeah, well, building, definitely.
Well,
March 16th. I need to see how you there in the building. Come soak up all this good knowledge, and we're gonna build well together, guys.
Yeah. So, so you have to know, and I have some great things coming up in the VI with my nonprofit, Champions for Financial Literacy.
Like that.
Yeah.
Where can we find? Is there a place that we could find champion for literacy?
RacquelBerry-Benjamin.com, and you find the nonprofit link and you click on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that will give you information, and you can actually sign up to be a champion because that's what we want and that's what we need. We're in poverty as a people because we lack financial education and we lack the courage to take the action.
Yeah.
Right.
We could have all the knowledge, but if we don't take that step, as we know in education, applied knowledge is what makes it different.
And people don't even like. Sometimes we hear financial literacy as a word and don't even understand how impactful it is and how it affects us in almost every part of life. A lot of the decisions we make as people from poverty has to do with the struggle, has to do with, I don't have no money, let me try to get some real quick, and then it impacts our decision making. You have people getting locked up for stealing from the job. You get man that graduate high school, don't want to go college, and the only thing they know is we're going to sell some weed on the corner because this is how I could make some money. You get people in political office or whatever offices mismanaging money, and sometimes it's not even intentionally. Sometimes we give people positions, based on the thing that they do know, and then give them a whole budget. So I's a medical whatever, and I over the Department of Medicine, but here's this whole budget, and you got balance this here, and don't mismanage none of them funds,
But we no idea.
And they know.
my God.
And we teaching them man this here on an entry level where they could be equipped in these positions when that time comes. So financial literacy, I always say in my program, financial literacy in the household is just as important as manners. We don't teach our kids manners when the time there's nothing. You're gonna be anything else in this world, you just ain't gonna be rude.
And you see the damage to it, the goodness of it, and the damage.
Exactly. So now we raising kids that don't even understand money, and then they're making these uninformed decisions that's affecting their everyday lives as young adults. So they're done in debt before they even reach adulthood to properly understand what it is they could do and
Like
how they
pouring
could.
butterfly doors on a silica.
I guilty of it.
I get one
I
back.
guilty
I had to
of
get
it.
one back.
Listen,
I had to get
in
mine
my
back.
We
when I
all
was growing
have
up,
our moments,
yeah,
right?
man. That was
Sony had to
for
get
me.
mine back.
That was well for me. Like what house
Good
way?
job, good
I gonna
job.
buy these rims
That's right.
and put these Lambo doors on this car, and I gonna drive around and all the girl gonna want me. What house? Why care about house? I gonna stay in the ghettos and I gonna drive my bad ride.
Exactly. But
What
you know
talking
what?
about?
We got touch on that. We got
Exactly.
touch on that. No, that there's a point there we got touch on this.
Yeah. So it's like we have to really implement this financial literacy at a young age. When you give your daughter $1 and send her to school, she gotta know how much things she could buy with this dollar.
You
check.
have my special story. You gotta have my
Tell me
special
your
story.
special story.
We had a special story.
I went.
Red man get a special story too.
I don't got no special story.
Emphasis on special.
This is the Racquel Berry-Benjamin show. Okay.
So in 6th grade, I got, you know, between Ras Valley and Tutu School, Joseph Gomez, there's a bunch of kennep tree and mango tree. So I got through there, pick my kennep them, gone up on the side of the road, I had 20 bunches, sell my kennep them, $20. Now, I ain't no child coming to school every day. My mother ain't got no money to give me every day. Whatever we find, me and my brother, we got a ring. I gone with this $20. And the first thought that should have come to mind is, let me save at least some of it. I ain't gonna save all, but at least some. Save what? I couldn't wait to get to school, you hear me? Special for days.
I mean,
You
it get
invest in
more.
special.
I invested for all my $20. God.
It get more kidnapped. So you spend
It get
that
more
20, you
You
go
go buy
spend some more.
that kind of-
That's how we all thought. And
That's
like you
funny.
said, we wasn't literate.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is we think that financial literacy is an adult conversation.
Oh, God, no.
And we shortchange children by not giving them the chance to, they could learn it. They could understand, especially now when it's new world.
Listen, you hit the nail on the head. We treat financial education like it's separate and apart.
Right.
We need to stop isolating it,
Right.
stop decompartmentalizing it, and treat it like every other subject matter that we teach in children. Manners, we teaching them. Character, we teaching them. English, reading, math, and put financial literacy at the top. And I always say, okay, and I'm known for it, acquiring a financial education is as vital to our success as learning to read.
Exactly.
Because in education, we prioritize reading, which it's
Right.
correct.
Right.
It is the scale of skills, right? But in today's world, there's no way. There's man on the road who can't read that need money.
Yeah.
The homeless man on the road, he asks you, give me a book, I need to learn to read.
Yeah.
I need money to eat.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Fact.
It is as vital as learning to read. So financial literacy should be taught from the womb.
Right.
And I have a series of books coming out this year. And one of the books is called What Will Baby Be? And automatically you would, well, boy or girl, right? But no, this is financial literacy.
Right.
So what will baby be?
Right.
And I wouldn't reveal the rest because
Right.
I want you to get the book.
Oh, we got in the book.
Okay?
For sure.
And we're actually promoting that book this year in the Virgin Islands. That's one of the things I'm doing this year. When I was commissioner, the Cradle Literacy Program was birthed under my tenure. That's one of the programs that was done under my leadership. Hats off to the Department of Health, Charmin Myers, and of course the Department of Education, Miss Dr. Yvette McMahon. They were the leaders on that project. And what it does is it promotes reading with expecting moms, expecting parents to begin reading from the womb. Reading is that important. So I'm now contributing as someone still in the education space, providing resources. One of my companies develop resources for education. And that's one of the products, right? So that is around financial literacy. So it's a reading book for moms. So we started from the womb.
Yeah, and babies can hear from the womb too.
Oh,
She
yeah.
reads out loud.
Yeah.
And then mom is prepared and has a different mindset when her baby comes out.
Right. So
Right.
it
So that's
actually,
dope.
reading from the womb doesn't guarantee that children would learn a specific subject
Right,
matter.
right.
What it does is it creates activity. In the brain activity, right?
Right.
So it has its benefit, but it doesn't guarantee they're going to learn
Right.
financial literacy. What it does with the mom and dad, it gets them in the habit and practice of promoting financial literacy. So instead of just reading books about babies, books about animals, books about whatever, you have your financial literacy resources from the womb.
Right.
Then you have home, schools, and communities. That is my focus. That is what I ultimately believe. That's why when I created the Portrait of a Virgin Islands Graduate, that is the North Star that says everything our children are to graduate with. it's at the core of it, at the foundation and structure of that. And you'll see it on the visual. It's there represented on the visual. Home, the school, and the community.
Right.
If those three pieces don't go together, we mix matching and we patching.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we have the community, it's the schools, it's the teachers, it's the commissioner, it's the senators pointing at the department pointing at the senators, the common citizens. It's everybody's responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? So in the home, we have parents who have to do their part. And that's one of the things my company does. I provide the resources to support financial literacy outside of the school. I'm also working with curriculum developers to provide resources for in the schools.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we as people have to hold our elected officials accountable. If we want our schools to have financial literacy, if we want our community to be literate, then we as a people have to ensure the policies, the programs, everything is within our community. So when our child leaves home, in home, they know mommy and daddy is a requirement. Financial literacy, being smart about money, is a requirement. And guess what? As I turn my head and I go in a school, though, school is very important. As I go in my community, I turn the corner, I hear about it again. That's good education.
So I agree with you 1,000%. It have to be instilled in the community first. Because if we put it in the school, yes, they ain't gonna see it as a priority. You check? Like, they ain't gonna see it as important because I don't practice that every day in my life.
It has to be valued by the community.
Exactly. We put value in our community. You'll see sports being played. You'll see people getting coach and basketball, baseball, all of them type of stuff. But who teaching about money? I have a...
Well, before you go on, Kyle, he is. But you know, a lot of it is not even that. It's just who we idolize. We don't idolize a Kyle. You know what I mean? And put the people like Kyle, not just Kyle, on a pedestal for being successful with their money, successful business owners. We don't make it sexy enough for kids to be like, I want to be that. You know what they want to be is the basketball player. Because they getting all their light, they getting all their attention. But it don't have that many Tim Duncans in our community. But it have a lot of Kyles that we don't know and we don't highlight.
And this is why it's so important, and our voices are so important, because Kyle from the ghettos, is Kyle from Pearson.
Kyle from the ghettos? As Racquel from Rosali.
Telling you. So I have a credit repair company, right? Where I repair folks' credit. And you wouldn't believe the amount of adults in the 40s and the 50s that I am still repairing mistakes that they made in their college years. When they got to college and they took a credit card, they accepted a credit card with a 30% APR because it was a $500 credit card. And they maxed it out. And then now the monthly payment is almost more than the credit card limit and them type of stuff. So it's like, if we don't make it a priority in our community as a whole, as opposed to just, listen, when they get them P League and La Leche and them thing, the bleachers filled, everybody, the whole community showing up for them kids. You know what I mean? Like, we need to really make this thing so important and such a priority, because how we doing is setting our kids up. Yeah, we're teaching them how to play ball. Yeah, we're teaching them how to play music. We're teaching them all this stuff. And then we send them into the world
with no financial literacy.
And they got to figure it out. And they got to make these mistakes that we had to make. And they got to go into the wall and fumble and fall down and grit up the skin and then come back home. You know what I mean? Because they wasn't prepared, because we did a shitty job preparing them for the world, because we didn't teach them about something as important as money. And that need to change, man. So
absolutely.
When you see me here shaking and things,
again the passion, again the energy.
Because, man, like, we to prioritize the shit that ain't that important, and the shit that ain't that important ain't a priority, and that needs to change. And I can't be the only person screaming this out.
You know, the thing is, Kyle, is this: you had fun, right? You went out, you run around, you went India, you pet tigers and play with bears. No, you want to come tell somebody focus on something else and prioritize life and their money and don't have the fun that you had. And that is the problem with especially younger folks where you try and catch them before because we're not telling them this was a mistake.
Yeah.
You're seeing the end and thinking that you're going to end up like me. That is not a guarantee. This decision that I made were me say, look fun.
Yeah.
Blowing the bag in Miami, blowing the bag in
Celica,
Lucia,
coin,
buying the
alleys,
Celica,
exactly.
all the stuff that my jewelry, doing whatever I wanted. Those were mistakes. What you're seeing now could have been a better version of me if I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But to tell them, don't go jam, don't go ahead. Just stock for 5 years, stock for 2 years, stock for a year will get you ahead. Just cool out, they're going to run from it.
I don't get people coming to me and saying, Kyle, I want to buy a house. And I went to the bank and the bank tell me no. I'm like, okay, what your credit score is? Me ain't check. You didn't check your credit score before you went to the bank? You just walk in and people bank talking about, give me $400,000-$500,000 for a house. And you think they wasn't going to tell you anything different but get out in here? Like, come on, man. Like, what we doing? So, okay, you want to buy a house. They say your income ain't enough. All right, you ain't got enough savings, right? Say you make decent money, but you ain't got enough savings. How I could save money? What we doing this weekend? We turning up on Friday. We turning up on Saturday. We turning up on Sunday. And then we going to another country for their carnival to turn up some more. So again, right? If that's your thing and that's the thing you love doing and you good, me talking to you, continue doing that.
Until you're ready.
You keep
Check
doing
me when
that.
You're ready.
But when you come to me and say, my boy, I want a house, or I want different, or I want this, or I want that, and I telling you, my boy, this is where you need to cut back on. This here is where you need to cut back on.
And he want to live his life.
Well, okay.
So you're telling him to stop living life.
Remember, right?
They only live once. Tomorrow ain't promised.
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So, my boy, if you want to turn up and be the turn up king, continue doing that. But you can't get a house and continue to be the turn up king. So you gotta make a decision at this point in time.
And you do it? How come I can't do it?
I do it and I make them mistakes. So when I would turn up king and doing all of them, heck, I couldn't buy a house. I had to stop. Right. At some point in time, I had to stop being the turn up king and stop going here and stop going there and sit my ass down to be in a position where I could save enough money to get my house. And then guess what? I get my house, I rent them out, and now guess what I could do? Go back to being the turn up king and travel and do everything. Cause I don't get, and now it's an asset in making me money. But now you turning up and paying a landlord money and just flushing money down the toilet because all you doing is paying that landlord mortgage, That's all you doing. You paying his mortgage every month. So, and guess what he doing?
Turning up.
Yep.
That's it. So it's like, guys, when we own, we could decide what it is we want to do. We could decide, okay, now I sacrifice, so now I own, so I could go turn up. But I want to walk backwards and I don't walk that way.
But the thing is too, so many things came out of this, which proves the point. Financial literacy need to be taught from young. We could agree on that, right? Definitely. It's strengthened with the home school community, with everybody embracing it, right? A key thing you said, it would be suicide to think that we could tell somebody they can't have fun or go little league or whatever, right? So money, you said, could be sexy. You have to make it interesting. If we had gotten on this podcast and spoke from an intellectual level,
right?
And a soul listening.
Right.
But because we're speaking from people to people, they want the melee. They want coming.
Right.
That's how we are as humans. Same thing in our classroom with our children. We cannot reach them if we don't connect with them where they are. We got to bring in Tim Duncan. Oh, God, Tim Duncan coming to the school. Boss pipe, pressure coming. We got to do these things to excite them because, as I don't know, we're just wired that way. You know?
Condition.
So, right, exactly.
Right.
And good, exactly. So the whole thing is money could be fun. Matter of fact, money is
fun.
Great. It's very fun for me.
I love it.
Right? It's not a boring topic.
I have more fun when I have money than when I don't have money. That's facts. When I broke, I don't be like, I broke a party. Son, I sick to my stomach when I broke, my son.
Ain't nothing more fun. And I wouldn't have wanted to leave high school if I were having a better experience, traditional high school. If I were having a better experience with money at home.
Facts.
Right? So it's all in how you present the topic of money.
Yeah.
Children would get so excited. My nephew, 6 years old, and his sister and my other cousin niece, they're excited. 5 and under, building their piggy bank, wrapping their coins, taking it to the bank. Those are exercises we do intentionally, right? Instilling. It's very creative activities that you could do with young children.
One thing I know for sure, and me and care what none of these adults tell me, kids are very interested in money.
Oh God.
They when you ask a child what he want money.
That's
Right.
So
Because
I
you know what
can't
he want
tell
buy.
exactly. I can't
Right.
tell me that these children don't need to learn about it, because that's all they want. I don't go talk to these children. I don't go to these schools. Did I have a ton load of speakers in front of me, talking about all type of different topics. But and these children doting, they falling asleep as I get up there and I talk about money.
Yep.
I have a question. I'm telling you, they want to know.
Yep.
They're gonna spend the money anyways.
Yep.
We got to teach them how
To be
to make their money
responsible.
last. You think nobody want to learn, brother? Wait, you mean I could still do the things I want, some kind of how, and still save some money? How you to do that? How you to do that? My son asks me all the time.
Right. So here on Caribbean Currency Podcast, of course you could tell me and Kyle have similarities, but we have our differences. Kyle focuses on everything, but primarily your finances, the way loans work, your literacy when it comes to using your money and the financial system here in the West and in the world, period, because Kyle travels everywhere. I focus, because I manage artists and stuff, on relationships. So we like to ask our guests, what is their form of currency, their favorite form of currency?
Relationships.
Right.
Honestly. And I believe that at my core, because we don't get anything done
Right.
without relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We could be in business,
Mm-hmm.
put in all the contracts we want. But when Mary works for this company, Mary knows your business ethics, your product,
Right.
how you do relations, because she had a good experience with you.
Right.
You're guaranteed to get a contract. But when you pour in your hat in the pile
Right.
with all kind of other companies competing for the same job, odds are the winner is going to be the best man presented, right? The best product.
Right.
But behind that,
Right.
guaranteed, if somebody I mean talking Virgin, I don't know who.
No, it's period.
I'm
That's
talking
worldwide.
period. That is
Right.
business.
Yeah.
Okay? Because people do business
With people.
with people they like,
Mm-hmm.
they know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you an advantage. Relationships. When you get money, you getting money from your business because of people. Your network is your network. We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
That is absolute true. If you hanging around broke people, whether they broke because they just don't know, you can't thrive and grow as an individual. When you start to hang around people with money, your attitude begin to change, right? And we assuming everybody have good character. That's not the argument here.
Yeah.
Your attitude begins to change. Your mindset begin to change. You're learning and growing from what they know, because they're talking money. They ain't talking wherever you talking. You in their world.
Yeah.
So now you begin to grow and aspire. And that's where your money comes from. They're going to talk good about you because they know you. They've been interacting with you. They're going to recommend you to others. Relationship matters. So that is truly my currency.
Well, with that being said, it was a fun conversation.
Amazing.
Very informative conversation. I learned a lot today. I learned a lot about you. I know you from like a distance. Like I said, my friends from the same place you're from, and I speak highly of you. And from everybody in the Virgin Islands community and the community that you made contact with here in the States, because you have a broad network nationally. On behalf of all those people, we want to say thank you, Commish, former Commish, still Commish, Racquel Berry-Benjamin.
It was a pleasure.
For
being here
coming
with you
on and
guys.
talking with me and Kyle and Sony and the Caribbean Currency Podcast.
Thank
was
you.
amazing.
It was an honor. It was an honor.
Appreciate you coming and blessing us. I know you're a busy woman. You got to catch a flight as you leave here.
Yes.
So we're going to just wrap it up. But really, 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 just to echo what Redman say, thank you so much for coming. This was a very impactful conversation. And I hope that it would move the needle in the Virgin Islands and the rest of the world. All right? And
Awesome.
with that said, guys, appreciate you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Caribbean Currency Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, and we're going to see you on the next episode. Peace.
Just need a big bag, I'ma get it so fast, I'm so fast. And when I get that money, I'ma make that last. Caribbean currency, we make that money last. We make it last. I just need a big